Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back once again to SimSpeed TV. Nothing's changed in terms of events. It's still the 5th annual Oceanic Sim Racing Bathurst 12-hour. We're here to bring you the final 3 hours of this incredible race. The first of many big events to be happening in the Australia-New Zealand sim racing community over 2024. We are under the 13th safety car of the race. Plenty of action, plenty of drama has transpired in the last 6 hours, and we are about to get ready to go racing. I'm Reese Gardner, David Haynes with me in the comms box, Jay Kennedy on production behind the scenes. Looks like we're about to get into racing action already, David.
Yeah, we are. Safety car has pulled away from your leader, the Eclipse Sim Sport Audi GT3. And so now, once that safety car's into the pit lane, it's the race leader's prerogative when they go. Dylan Burst is ready to get this one underway. He's had enough of safety cars.
He has indeed. Here we go then. You see that Matthew Dench and his teammates have managed to work the DBM Beyond Blue Ferrari back up to second place. It's been a great rise through the field for them. Vermilion Motorsports 28, they've always been a factor in the top 5. They run third, just up ahead of Tom Katsadonis in the WSR Esports butt kicker entry. Meanwhile, GT4, Eddie Beswick, and at the wheel of the Eclipse Sim Sports Aston Martin, Emily Jones was in the Trans-Tasman Racing number 6 when we left. She's back in it again, with Carl Ridley in the SLM Motorsport Pink BMW. So that's the way things stand, top 3, top 4 in class so far. We're already back to racing at a track that has risen and fallen in temperature. It's back up to 48 degrees, which is what we saw in qualifying, but have a look at that temperature graph, David. It was very cool when we signed off this morning. It got as high as 52 at one point.
Yeah, talk about sign off. That track temp looks like a sine wave. It took a little while to get going, and then it accelerated, reached its peak, and racing into the afternoon now, we're just past the peak with a chance that the track cools off from here to the finish.
Yeah, very small chance of that. Of course, it being February in Australia, it does get quite warm as the field goes through the dipper for the first time under this green flag racing period. There's a lot of drama that's been going on, and at the end of this lap, we will get to some of the drama. There has been plenty of safety cars in the interim between when we signed off and when we just came back. 3 hours and 23 minutes left in the race. We look at the Pulsachuka Toyota entry. Dennis Gatterick has taken the wheel of that car from John Merritt and Luke Turner. There's been quite a few appearances from many big drivers in the AusNZ sim racing community over the course of this race. Back up to 9th spot for them after they took a fast repair very early on. I think almost before the sun even rose. That is the first green flag lap complete. 209 laps completed for the leaders. This is what brought out one of the safety cars, the number 81 Ned's Whiskey Mercedes AMG. Now, I'm not too sure what went on here. Seems like maybe a miscommunication between the classes. I'm not too sure. Might have happened up at Griffin's Bend.
We know that cold tyres are very, very difficult on these GT4 cars. They don't have the downforce. The tyres start very slippery. And Griffin's been a little bit of apex curb. Rear goes around. And the roll back. The pie floaters.
Oh, no, not the pie floaters. That's a real shame for them, going straight into a GT4 on the exit of a blind corner. So that's just one of the many incidents that have brought out safety cars over the course of this race. But we'll keep our eyes out here through the field. Is that one of the Ferraris going slow? Drop Bear and Cosi, Lockhart Brownlee at the wheel of that one.
They just had contact
under attack
with one of the ERT Mercedes as well on the exit of the cutting, then up underneath the tree. So it looks like both cars managed to get going, which you wouldn't expect out of this.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, all right. Up the inside, and Reed Park and Brownlee gets sent into the wall for his troubles, but hey, it didn't look like as bad of a hit as it could have been considering the circumstances. The track looks very different now to when it started. There are marbles all over the place, so much rubber being laid down and flung off the tyres as they make their way through the 23 turns of Mount Panorama. Brownlee is back up to speed and will continue to try and pressure as the sister car, the 9.5 SimSport car. My apologies. No, I was right. The sister car. I'm getting the Drop Bear and 9.5 cars confused. Bailey Sweeney has taken over the Orbit Drop Bear Motorsports entry, chasing down Andre Youssef, who's back in the Altus Australia Ferrari.
Greg Rust was just talking about Bailey Sweeney earlier today that I was watching from Sandown, which is where he'd rather be. He's here with us. This is another replay of one of the incidents earlier in the race that brought out a safety car and brought an end, I believe, of the 9.5 SimSport 951.
Good avoidance by the ERT Mercedes there. Was right on the anchors, but it got worse for everyone behind. Looks like the Whipperman Racing Porsche was one of the cars involved in that.
Yeah, it was. That car also then spent a long time in pit lane, but has rejoined the race. Somewhat delayed, we believe. Yeah, that's... yes, 4 laps down.
That's a shame for Whipperman. They had top 5 pace, and they should be way up here with the rest of the top 5, but it's all about survival in a big endurance event like this. Look at the way the pressure is being piled on by Dennis Gatterick here. He's got Byron Pierce in the Alpha Venturi Porsche to contend with here, coming into Forest Elbow, and Gatterick is looking very quick now that they're up to speed.
Met Dennis Gatterick last year, a little bit of 90s boy band swag to him. Very, very quick, and he's in behind one of the Porsches that don't seem like they're typically one of the quickest cars in the straight line. That's true of everywhere that you see a 992 generation Porsche GT3R at Daytona, for example. And then looking at what brought out the most recent safety car, the one we were under when you joined us.
Yeah, so unfortunately that's the WKMP Mercedes getting into the wall heavily at roughly the same location, and just enough space for the Evolution Racing Team 261 to squeeze by on driver's left. Unfortunately, just too much damage. Look at that right rear pointing towards the inside of the car. So that's a real shame for Blake Warboys and company in the WKMP car.
Will not be witnessed in all shiny and chrome after that one, unfortunately.
No, definitely not. Have a look at this though. Byron Pierce is starting to gain on Jared Bailey in the Rapid Team Rennsport Ferrari. Coming into Griffin's Bend, no passing opportunity there for the time being. You have to be pretty much alongside the car you're attempting to pass before you go for the move. So Bailey, Pierce and Gatterick line astern on the way into the cutting as the top 3 starting to break away. Dylan Burse in the Eclipse SimSports 56 Audi has been absolutely phenomenal since he got into the car. And he enjoys quite a big lead over these guys as we're on board now with Gatterick on the way into the S's. Look at the difference in lines, difference in approach here. It's always a little different every single lap. But now, He's got to focus on the exit of Forest Elbow to get the run into the chase. He's going to get a double slipstream if he gets this right.
Of course, our live timing has the car straight line speeds as well. That's pinned in the chat. And the Ferraris have been pretty decent in the straight line here. Approaching 278 kilometers an hour for Dennis Gatter at 275 for the Porsche in front of him. So just at the end of Conrod Straight here, the Ferrari, the prancing horse, does have just a little bit more legs, but the Porsche seems to be making it up in some other places, and it doesn't look easy to outbrake. I typically find Porsches are pretty good on the brakes with all that weight rearwards. Once you stand on the brakes, the weight goes forward onto the nose, and it's quite evenly distributed for good stopping power.
Have a look at this pack. This is interesting. We've got Bailey Stephen in the FPS Evolved driving car. This is the battle for the top 20 here. It looks like Sean McLaughlin in the HTS Mercedes was towards the front of this pack, but has been shuffled back slightly. Now Rob Carmichael, who's in the Vermilion Motorsports Ferrari, is under a lot of pressure from the recovering Lockhart Brownlee.
So now up Mountain Straight. Slipstream quite strong here as well because of that uphill, knowing that the inside is where you want to be at turn 2 Griffin's Bend. No moves made. 3 cars in an ERT train just ahead of them at the cutting as well, where I think John Peasnick might have made a move on his teammate Ian Ford.
Yeah, Peasnick has been shuffled back in the field, or rather the whole team in the ERT 261 has been dealing with a little bit of drama in the middle stages of the race. Reese Gasul and Reina Costello have been driving in the interim. Peasnick back in the car after doing the first few stints of the race. This battle is by no means over. Bailey Stephen actually catching up to Ian Ford here in the ERT 260.
Ford's dropped a couple more spots.
He has.
Now he's really struggling for whatever reason. Are those rear tires done? It just looked like no traction out of the elbow.
Yeah, it didn't look like there was much traction out of Griffin's or out of the cutting either. He just let cars go across the top, and well, now he's dealing with trying to stay ahead with a very trimmed out rear wing, and look who's poking their nose out. It is Rob Carmichael, and he's gone too deep in the chase. So that stymied the run of the other cars involved in that battle. All the same, it has given Bailey Stephen a little bit more breathing room in the number 10.
Not able to get a stint length reading on Ian Ford at this point either, to know if maybe they've tried to skip out on a pit stop or to gain a little bit of track position where possible, knowing that safety cars have been pretty common. So you might be able to, you stay out one, manage to hold that track position, and if you're lucky and another one happens, then you pit with everyone else on that opportunity. So it could be different strategies still playing out across all of that.
Well, let's have a look then at the number 43, the Blackout OPR entry. 24 pit stops, apparently. No, there is one car that's done more pit stops than that. Blackout OPR have made a lot of visits to the pits, and it actually looks to me like they've done quite a few driver changes just in the last hour. Sam Sproul, James Golding, and Dylan Shepherd have all taken to the car, but Whipperman Racing having the most pit stops in the field so far at 33. That's a lot of time spent on the limiter on pit road.
It's tough to fathom, honestly. I
mean,
I don't
with,
even know how.
With nearly 9 hours of the race completed so far, that's what?
Well, it's
like
every safety
3 pit
car.
stops an hour.
And it's twice every safety car, and then an extra one in the middle of every stint for good measure as well. I mean, we saw that they've picked up some damage on a couple of occasions and all of that, and maybe they got to drive through at some point. But yeah, just you got to add up a lot to go 33 times through pit lane. It hurts to think about.
Yeah, they've obviously had quite a bit of drama to contend with, as has everyone in the field. In fact, the Whipperman Racing Porsche is the last GT3 in order before you get to the GT4 class. They are 4 laps down on the overall lead of the race. Meanwhile, Alpha Venturi starting to look at Rapid Team Rennsport. Good defense from Jared Bailey. Byron Pierce, once again, cannot find his way past at turn 2. But I'll tell you what, Gaderick has started to fall back, and this brings Mark Newton and James Coutier into the mix in the middle finger and cool drive entries. It is now a 5-car train here, all fighting for 7th position.
And they're not far ahead of 9.5, SimSports 9.5, and Venture IP with Blake Neck, and then John Peasnick, who we know has been coming back through the field. He's only about 3 seconds behind this one as well, in what was one of the fastest Porsches, was the fastest Porsche, wasn't it? The 261 in the shootout qualifying.
Yeah, certainly was. And that was largely by virtue of the race-leading Eclipse SimSports Audi not being allowed to set a lap thanks to a rules infringement in the shootout. On board with Peasnick now as he tries to chase down Blake Neck and Sean McNamara. Really is a who's who of Australian sim racing that takes part in this event every year. New fastest lap of the race, meanwhile, Dylan Burst setting a 2:03.129.
I think that was
sorry,
a
I think
little while
that's
ago.
a bit late. Yeah.
Just appreciate the Porsche we're on board with going to 9,000 RPM before every shift. Beautiful. Long may it remain so.
Yeah, indeed. Do like a nice high revving flat 6. Apologies for that. Seems like the overlays were bugging out just a little bit. Last lap for the Eclipse SimSports car was a 2:04.596. They're still far and away the fastest car on track right now.
Yes, and they are holders of the fastest lap. They just didn't set it just then, when the track is still 48 Celsius, knowing that we started the race at 24. Big difference in the track conditions there. Looking backwards from 12th at 13th and 14th. John Peasnick looking to gain some spots back. Blake Neck also long time GT racer on iRacing, the Venture IP car.
Yeah, Blake Neck's been well known for his exploits in the GT realm. He was part of Evolution Racing Team, and then he spent some time with Fusion Sim Racing before racing as a privateer for a little bit, and now with the Venture IP crew for the Bathurst 12-hour. Let's see what kind of a run he gets coming up the mountain here. They are now at the top at the highest point of the circuit through Metal Grate, and then the rise up to McPhillamy Park. That right there is the highest point on the racetrack. It is all downhill until the bottom of the dip on Conrod Straight, and what a beautiful sequence of turns this is. Gets me every single time they come through. You know, I've been commentating races at Bathurst and been watching races at Bathurst for a very long time, and it still gets me just how amazing this circuit is and what kind of moves you can make, like Blake Neck just did there on Sean McNamara. Peasnick is going to follow him through, obviously taking advantage of Dylan Budzany in the locked-on racing Merc GT4 there. Now it's side by side between Peasnick and McNamara. Peasnick has the slipstream, but we know that the Porsche is a little bit down on straight line speed. All the same, Sean McNamara decides it's probably best to sit behind.
It does not matter. Peasnick's going for one. He's going for two. He'll have some contact. They'll both be off there. Blake Neck and John Peasnick trading paint door to door.
Yeah. And Peasnick is going to make the move there. Blake Neck showing his displeasure there. That's given an opportunity to the next ERT car that also muscles Blake Neck off the track. Hayden Veld and Blake Neck will not be friends after this, I don't imagine. Let's see how hard Neck pushes in the braking zone. He's going to try and fight this all the way to the apex and maintain the outside through Hell Corner. More wheel-to-wheel contact. The Venture IP Ferrari is getting bashed around right now.
But he's still level, and he's the side of the road you want to be, the driver's right-hand side, approaching Griffin's Bend. There's not really a whole lot of slipstream for Hayden Veld there, who's got his nose in front, but yields around the outside, knowing nothing good comes from being off camber and on the marbles and out of line.
Yeah, so Blakeneck has, well, he doesn't have any room to breathe, but he can breathe a short sigh of relief before they get to the acceleration zone out of the cutting. All of that back and forth has allowed Peasnick to gain a bit more of a gap, but he remains behind Sean McNamara. Here's the GT4 lead, meanwhile. Eddie Beswick versus Emily Jones. This combination of Aston Martin and McLaren throw the LP Racing Merc in there early on. They were certainly up there, but they've had some issues recently and have not been on track for a while. Meanwhile, Bailey Sweeney has lost his rear wing. Looks like a problem at the dipper, and oh dear, people trying to take advantage here. McNamara almost went for it. When we last looked at Sweeney, he was in 6th spot, so something's gone very wrong for Orbit DBM there.
Yep, Peasnick's over the back of them as well, so we're going to look. It's coming down the hill. A lot of curb there on the way into the dipper. Way out wide towards the dipper. Ooh, lucky that car's still steering straight.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Now the number 10's had a problem at the elbow across the circuit. Fortunately, just gets out of the way in time for the Whipperman Porsche to make its way through. And that car looks very poorly right now. Seeing that, Bailey Sweeney, oh yeah, he's going into the pits there. Saw the positions change on the timing screen and I thought, oh, is that a pass? No. Sweeney obviously going into repair damage. Let's see what happened then to the number 10 Audi. Oh dear.
There was a checkup and he actually got into the back of the car that he was following. And I didn't catch what started the checkup, but we've seen it happen before. You're going down through the S's there and suddenly you almost appear on a GT4 in the elbow. I don't think that's what happened that time, but it sometimes happens like that.
Yeah, sometimes indeed. Onboard replay here with Lockhart Brownlee. He was chasing the FPS Evolve driving Audi. Oh, it was the ERT Mercedes there.
Checked up behind the Porsche. The Porsche was the first one to go slow through there.
Yeah, okay. So maybe there was a move made.
Had the
Oh no! More problems for Drop Bear, this time Lockhart Brownlee again. And that's at the exit of the cutting.
If we link them together in our mind, maybe the Porsche was slow because it had to go slow through the dipper because of Bailey Sweeney, if they happened on the same lap. So things can be interconnected.
Certainly
this is more recent.
It is indeed, up the inside, and Brownlee got tapped around there. Looked like a bit of an optimistic dive from the Ferrari behind. So he found the traction control toggle button and got that thing flicked around. We move back up to the battle for the top 6. Rapid Team Rennsport now has Dennis Gatterick to contend with. It looks like Gatterick has made his way past Byron Pierce. And now Middle Finger Racing and Cool Drive Racing are chasing them down still. GT4 traffic involved in this. Steen Jacobson in the JTIT race on Oz number 16, running in 40th overall right now. They'll make short work of him coming down at the start-finish straight. Just wants to squeeze in just James Coutier, and he manages to get it done. That Cool Drive Mercedes looks like one of the cleaner cars out there. Maybe they've already taken their fast repair. Who knows at this stage?
Now they've got the Veteran Gaming Australia Mercedes GT4 to get around, and almost everyone does up Mountain Straight. The GT3s have got 100, 150 more horsepower, and so not only are they quicker through the corners, better on the brakes, but thankfully for all of this, they're faster in a straight line too, very able to pass GT4s up Mountain Straight, down Conrod Straight, on the pit straight.
Well, unfortunately, bad news for Drop Bear and Cosi. We're hearing that they are going to be disqualified from the race. Unfortunately, Lockhart Brownlee did not sit out for the minimum 25 laps between stints. That is a massive shame for Drop Bear. And they're usually one of the teams that are right on top of the rule book. That's a big surprise.
I think I know who they can blame. And yeah, talking about, these driver arrangements, these driver changes. Thank you, Jake Kennedy.
Yeah, it looks like Yeaman's just received the news there that one of his cars is now out of the race. It's a massive shame for Drop Bear. It always stings to be out of an endurance race, but for a rules infringement like that, it just hurts so much more.
I was going to say that the number 6 car, currently second in GT4, hunting the leader, we didn't see Joe Mugford in that car, but he did hop behind the wheel for 55 laps. And then presumably Emily's gotten back in after that, and that's taken us to about where we are right now. Jake Burton told us we might see a little bit of him between now and the checkered flag as well. A little bit of an X factor might be useful here when you're half a second away from your class leader and you've just been watching them so far this stint since the safety car restart.
Yeah, on board here with Emily Jones across the top of the mountain, chasing down Eddie Beswick, who's been one of the star drivers of the night, I think. The whole crew in that Eclipse Sim Sports Aston Martin is a who's who of drivers that we know are very quick. Kobe Williams and Caleb Hydes have been sharing that car with Eddie Beswick. Emily Jones and Joe Mugford sharing the car with Jake Burton in the Trans-Tasman McLaren. It's been a fantastic fight, but I think through it all, Eclipse Sim Sports has been the one to stay out on top and be the most consistent. Remember that the LP racing car was one of the contenders for the win in GT4. Unfortunately, they only made it 207 laps in. So that happened very recently for them, only 5 laps ago. So it's a real shame for that crew, because I think if it hadn't been for that, they'd be right up there with these two.
Yeah, now the best Mercedes is HTS Racing Yellow, 4th in class, just behind, or now just in front of Kyle Ridley for 3rd in class. Good timing there.
Yeah, nicely done.
Ridley's in purple.
Yep.
It's Pulse tuning a Toyota Echuca, Glenn Riddell just behind there. So 3rd, 4th, 5th all together here, but he's sandwiched a BMW either side. Speaking of, how was it? Did you have that sandwich?
Yeah, I did, and it was certainly an experience. I still think it was kind of like a continental roll with extra steps, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. I'm not going to need dinner.
That's great. I had a bit of lasagna, which is again sandwich with extra steps, but yes, worth it.
Absolutely. Multi-layer pasta sandwich. Meanwhile, we hear that we do have Dan Yeaman in the comms box with us. Dan, of course, the man behind Drop Bear Motorsport. Dan, it must have hurt hearing that call from race control about the Drop Bear Nkosi machine.
Sure does, Reece. So technically, I've actually only heard about it due to extra access to some of the broadcast channels here in the OSR Discord. But yeah, just trying to mind my own business today with the 862 entry that I've been racing in. I'm done with the car now, so just sitting back to let Matt and Sam take care of the finish, given that my pace isn't quite there compared to them, but we kept it out of the fence, thankfully, so that's tick that box on my behalf. But yeah, it is unfortunate to get caught up on a procedural infringement. One of the things I would have hoped we would have not had an issue with, but them's the break sometimes when we're working as basically 3 independent cars today to try and focus on our own races.
Well, yeah, having said that, you did touch on it. You guys are up in 2nd at the moment, and it's certainly not somewhere I expected you guys to be when we signed off earlier today. What do you think was the secret to that? Just surviving?
Oh, 100% just surviving. I personally have put in just over 100 laps during the offline hours pretty much now, as it turns out, and just a case of, yeah, don't get caught up in anything crazy and look after things. In saying that, there were a few moments where I made a couple of mistakes and got myself in some sticky situations. Thankfully, didn't end up having to go to the pits off strategy and off sequence. So yeah, just by all means, it was my job was to look after the car, bring it back for Sam and Matt, and we'll be able to achieve that goal. And so now it's in their hands to take it home for the end of the race with their better pace and what I could bring to the race today.
So 3 hours on the clock as we see more side-by-side between Cool Drive and Middle Finger Racing. What's the strat to the end? How many laps can you get out of a tank here, and how are you going to play the pit stops?
With the number of safety cars and just sort of the ability to sort of generally flow the car for the most part, we're looking beyond 30 laps a tank most of the time. As we come to these final couple of stints, we might be tightening up a little bit as we start pushing a little harder and leaving less on the table in terms of fuel saving. And realistically, with the way it looks like the Eclipse car being on pace all day, it's going to be something miraculous to see them reeled back in. But yeah, Matt's doing an awesome job. Just try and keep our margin to the guys behind, and hopefully convert what was a P2 in the shootout to be able to stay up the front here for the rest of the race.
All right, well, thanks for joining us, Dan Yeaman, and best of luck to you guys. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you and the crew when the race concludes.
That's certainly the goal. Thanks very much, Reese.
All right, well, as we focus on the DBM Beyond Blue entry, they've just made their way past the GT4 leaders, and all of that back and forth as the race leaders made their way through has increased the gap. Eddie Beswick has a little bit more breathing room now versus Emily Jones.
Certainly plenty going on. We also saw the Cool Drive Mercedes showing that the marbles are real, got a little bit offline trying to pass some of these GT4s, and it cost them a little bit of time as Piesnik cut his way through. Here's another one of the ERT cars. Here's more of the ERT cars, trying to see if they can move up the field.
Yeah, ERT flying in formation. This is always good to see, but I would think that ERT would hope that their Mercedes crews would be a little bit further up the grid than they are. Ian Ford with Hayden Veld just ahead of him. They're still chasing down Sean McNamara in the 9.5 SimSport Ferrari. It's a bit difficult to overcome something like that when you're 3 hours to go in the race. Maybe they're just playing their cards very carefully. We still have 3 hours to go. So here out of Griffin's Bend into the cutting, this is one of the places where plenty of incidents have taken place so far. Even the scene of an incident that ultimately brought out a safety car early on, though a little bit later than most would have liked. It seems to me like there's a lot of trouble that Ian Ford is having across the top of the mountain. We noticed that he was slow there before, and it seems he's slow there again. The VRT Porsche seems to be corked up behind him right now. Hayden Veld, oh lordy, he was a little bit offline there through the S's. That was almost a clip of the wall.
We accidentally had the graphic for a quarter of a second there. I've only just realised you can look at the safety car's pit stop time as an estimation of how long we've been green for. So that's one way of looking at it now. About 30 minutes in, actually, on this little run, which is always good. Piesnik looking for another move into the chase. They're giving him to him for free.
Yeah, indeed. Looks like there was a bit of cooperation with the MFR number 3 there. Mark Newton's still at the wheel of that car. And not much to do when you have the car who qualified on pole position trying to make its way past you. At this point, you're better off just letting them have it, because Piesnik is going to go for the move, and he's one of the drivers that we know is going to be able to pull it up from that far back. Though, having said that, I don't think Blake Neck would agree.
Dennis Gaderick 6th, under pressure from the Porsche in 7th. And again, we've seen this dynamic of the Porsche versus the Ferrari a couple of times where the Porsche can be good on tyres, especially now we're in this hot weather, but lacking that last 2 kilometers an hour in a straight line and only making it up a little bit in the brakes takes a lot to be able to make the kind of passes like we've seen John Piesnik pull off. A lot of it is happening in the braking zone, not in a straight line.
Well, Peasnick has just dispatched the GT4 leaders. Eddie Beswick now trying to make some room for MFR, has succeeded in that. Almost see him pop into view in the background there, but we keep our eyes closely on Dennis Gatterick and Byron Pearce. Their next target is Andre Youssef in the Altus Australia number 5, and I don't know if traffic was a part of it, but Youssef and Katsadonis ahead ran low 206s. Dennis Gatterick a 205.6. So just judging by the times alone, there's probably a lot of pace in that Pulsar Chuka Toyota Ferrari. Meanwhile, the Lame Sheep Racing BMW. This is another drive-through penalty. And this is not a race control assigned drive-through. It's an iRacing incident point drive-through. We've had quite a few of those.
Cool Driving 9.5 have had a coming together down the mountain, and it looks like Blake Neck, Ventra IPM Sport by TSR have also been caught up in that. This has been a big one going down the mountain from the elbow.
Oh, what a shame. And it looks like the Trans-Tasman Racing McLaren was involved in this as well, though they escaped the worst of it. Blake Neck was side by side with the Cool Drive car, and then Emily Jones is just minding her own business here. Neck tries to move past her, but he wasn't clear of the Cool Drive Mercedes, and it looks like McNamara in the 9.5 Ferrari was an innocent victim of all that.
Got a look from on high on that one. Big check up at GT3s behind second place in GT4. You can tell it's not a BMW because they've found the indicators.
Oh dear. Yeah, need a little bit of lightness to add as the safety car has been called as a result of this incident. Looks like at the very least the 9.5 car is too damaged to make its own way back to the pit lane. So this is safety car number 14. Yep. 14th safety car of the race, and we still have 2 hours and 50 minutes on the clock. Here we go, there's the view from McNamara. You see that Neck wants to get past Jones, but he's not clear of the Mercedes, and well, there wasn't much McNamara could have done there. Aside from getting on the brakes, but it all happened so quickly, I don't blame him for not doing that.
Yeah, it will happen super quickly there. I'm not a big fan of trying to pin the car you're side by side with in behind the lapped traffic when there is 3 cars with the room. And then you just get that last really awkward bit of contact. There's a tiny bit of overlap. One car wants to come across, spins the other. Third innocent party gets drawn into it. Your outright race leader, second, third, they're all going to hit the pit lane. Fourth is going to as well. So's fifth. Almost everyone going for it. As I said, we've had more than half an hour of green flag running now at this point.
Yeah, no surprise to see that pretty much everyone is going to take a pit stop at this point. I see the Evolution Racing Team Mercedes cars are going to jump in there too. At least Hayden Veld has. Yep, Ian Ford's in too. So cars that are staying out.
Beswick stays out and Jones goes in from GT4. That's our big split. First staying out, second pitting in.
Yeah. So GT4, we have a little bit of variance on strategy there. I don't know if that's going to be the wisest decision for Eclipse Sim Sports.
Driver change from TTR as Joe Mugford's going to get back in after Emily Jones.
Indeed. I haven't seen Mugford in the race so far, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do. What this all means is that Eddie Beswick is going to be the first car in line behind the safety car, and he's joined by Dylan O'Shea in the 9.5 SimSport 951, but they're immediately let by.
The safety car's looking for the number 56 Eclipse Sim Sports GT3, which is the outright race leader at the moment.
You know, I tell you what, this might actually work to Eddie Beswick and Eclipse Sim Sports' advantage because they can afford to take that pit stop now. They'll be coming back around at racing speed to the pit lane. Any disadvantage they might have had not coming in, like the TTR car did, they're going to be nearly a full lap ahead of them.
It's going to be interesting to see what it does look like, because staying out, racing around to the pit lane, if you have a quick stop and the TTR car gets caught by the train, then yeah, you probably still end up ahead here. Probably do still end up ahead if they opt to pit. And of course, you're seeing the opposite happening here, where the GT3 that might want to pit can't overtake the GT4 on the way back to the pit entry. It doesn't happen to you if you're a GT4. You can't get caught behind another GT5.
No, there is no GT5 class, at least yet. Who knows
There's a
whether or not...
championship called it, though, and it's one of the feeders to British GT with Genettas, and they kind of rebranded Genetta Juniors, I think.
Yeah, righto. Okay.
But it's not an FIA or SRO spec of car.
All right. Well, both cars that we were looking at have made their way into the lane. Beswick is going to hand the car over to Caleb Hydes once more. So Eclipse Sim Sports, that'll be potentially around a minute pit stop time. The TTR car had a 54.5-second pit stop, a minute 17 from entry to exit in the pit lane. So I think if things work out here for the Aston, yeah, it's going to have a massive advantage. The safety car's still coming down Conrod Straight, and yeah, the pit stop, at least the driver change and tyre segment of it, is now done for the Eclipse Sim Sports Aston. So they're going to gain almost a lap on the rest of the GT4 field here.
There's still wave rounds and such to happen.
This is true. Still, it's a massive advantage.
Yeah, they're going to get out before the safety car here, rolling in the pit lane.
Yeah, true. Remember, pit exit will be closed as the field runs by. When are they going to close the pits? It looks like they've just made it out in time. So Caleb Hydes is going to come round to the back of the train. Remember, it's right here once they cross the finish line. That's when the pit exit closes.
Using that one there. Ethan Bass Orbit DBM is going to pit in from the GT3s in the tail of the picture there. And that looks like pie floaters. Do you know what I didn't say when we saw the replay earlier?
What's that?
Oh, it had a nose like a dropped pie.
Oh, no. There we go. Always got to get the puns in. There's still going to be plenty more to come. There have been plenty already. Orbit DBM, by the way, into the pits along with that Pie Floaters car. Ethan Bass is back in the 268. Marcus Konitska, it looks like, is staying in the Pie Floaters entry, as now the wave rounds are beginning.
I think TTR... Did TTR get one here?
Maybe? I mean, they'll probably have to, because I mean, pretty much every GT4 car now is in between the class leader and the safety car. So I would expect that the majority, if not the whole GT4 field, is going to get waved around here.
Yeah, should have to, shouldn't it? All of them that were on the lead lap. Yeah, and they, at this point, remain on the lead lap to their class leader. Just the thing is that they're, 80% of a lap down. If they're in the safety car train and their class leader is at the very, very tail of it. We'll find out momentarily. Anyone else? Not many other cars opting to pit later. Now they all had the opportunity early. Orbit DBM and Pie Floaters from the tail of the field to go, yeah, let's go one lap later if we can. Unless Orbit DBM were speeding on pit lane or had an unsafe pit entry, because they were through the lap before as well.
Right then. While we're in the throes of this 14th safety car of the race, another replay coming up. a little bit more information on past dramas. The Ned's 81 car on lap 138. Looks like the Whipperman Porsche was with them as well. Unfortunately, we haven't seen the meat of that incident, but you see the end of it, and that is enough. We're going to try that again, says Jay Kennedy, and we'll see exactly what happened between Whipperman and Ned's. So here we go then. The Porsche with better acceleration coming out of Reed and Sulman, but side by side out of Metal Grate, and oh dear, that's bad. Oh no. Okay. So
Right.
that I think was one of the dramas for the Ventra IP car. The 711 was in it as well, and as you mentioned, David, the Rogue car too. Deep blue Porsche.
Here is those other GT4s getting their wave by now. So you see them go. Second in class, obviously, the TTR car. Third, Josh Pervin's just got into the Slipstream Porsche. And with a shorter stop to jump some stops actually through that pit cycle there.
Let's see what happened here on board with Sebastian Flock. I think this is another view of the same incident we just saw. There's the Ned's 81 being turned, and there was just enough space for him to make his way through, and I bet he had a good view of that in his rear-view camera.
One door closes, another door opens. That's the Boeing production process. Yeah, so Pervin had a really quick stop. They were obviously, the rest of the GT4s were backed up as they entered the pit lane. Slipstream had a quicker stop in their Porsche, jumped HTS Racing Yellow, jumped Pulse Tuning Toyota Echuca, and I think also jumped SLM Motorsport Pink, who had a little bit more track position than they do now. But driver changes through a lot of those, like Perwin getting in, I think Tim Harris getting in, Lee Vandenberg might have just gotten back in, and Dylan Gray for SLM Motorsport Pink, as we keep across what's happening in GT4.
Meanwhile, the Whipperman Racing Porsche has gotten a lap back, which is good news for them. They are still 3 laps down on the rest of their class. However, it's better than being 4 laps down.
One IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship race distance to go in this one.
Well, let's see now. The run here out of the pits for this car that we've been observing on and off throughout the race. This GT3 here, the Summit Sim Sports Everest entry, Liam Reston at the wheel of this one. He was the car that he was the driver that took that car through the shootout, wasn't he? And he didn't start driving until the 143rd lap in the race for that car. So I'm looking for some big things from Liam Reston here. Still on the lead lap, but only just. They are the second last car running on the lead lap in GT3.
For 142 laps, he was Liam Reston. Oh, okay.
Could you say that again, David? I think we all missed that. Was it another attempt at a pun?
Yeah.
Okay. I was busy looking at numbers. I was a little bit unfocused. My apologies.
Fine. No, it's fine. Safety car
Narrator,
pulling away.
it is not fine.
Cody D doing 85 k's an hour, and then once that safety car is in pit lane, then it'll be green flag for Cody D if and when and how he wants to go, anywhere between when the safety car is in the pit entry and when he, at 85 kilometers an hour, reaches the start line out the final corner.
Yep, safety car pulling away from the rest of the field, and I'm hoping that we get a long green flag run out of this. Touch all the wood you possibly can, because, man, 14 safety cars, and we still have 2.5 hours to go in the race. There is a lot of potential here for another one. Safety cars breed safety cars, as they say, and there has been plenty. But rising above it all have been Cody Deeth and now Sam Sutton, who's in the DBM Beyond Blue car. Away goes Cody Deeth, taking over from Dylan Burse in the pit stop cycle. A little bit of a checkup further back there in the GT3 field.
And no overlapping until the apex of the final corner here as well on the restart. So you're just single file, even though the leaders got the hammer and tongs down until about this point here. And there was a couple of GT3 cars between GT4 leader Eclipse Sim Sports and Trans-Tasman Racing. That should clear out pretty quickly and leave you with just a couple of seconds for the lead in that class as well, as the GT3s race up Mountain Straight once again.
Right then, so Cody Deeth once again executing that restart perfectly, holding on to now a 9/10 of a second gap. Meanwhile, Middle Finger versus Cool Drive. These cars have been good friends with each other. Brett Barker making the move around the outside of Wayne Taylor. Driver changes in both of those cars. And already Brett Barker making his presence known on the racetrack. MFR is now in the clutches of the Evolution Racing Team 260. There's another new driver in that car, Ian Ford, handing over to Marcelo Rivera in the pit cycle. Marcelo Rivera is one of those drivers that we know is one of the best out there on his day.
Behind the Middle Finger Racing Ferrari right now, Rivera, like you say, and then Ashley Collins, Lawrence Clark. Very tightly packed over the top of the hill and then down the S's towards the dipper. Tight line from ERT, a little wayward from MFR.
Yeah, just a little bit. Wayne Taylor trying his best to hold on to the rear end of that Ferrari, it seems. It doesn't look too comfortable coming down the mountain. And now the trimmed out ERT Mercedes has its straight line speed unleashed. Look at the run that Marcelo Rivera has. Going to have the inside for the important part of the chase. And it looks like Wayne Taylor's going to give him it on the way into what you would say is the easy part in a GT3 car anyway. Plenty of racing going on just behind them as well. Looks like Ethan Bass making the move on Jim Stoddart in the FPS Evolved driving entry. Meanwhile, a change for second and third. Blackout OPR found themselves in the top three, and now they're up into second. Dylan Shepherd is back in that car. The number 43 has suffered a few penalties over the course of the race, not least at the very start for an unsafe re-entry. But they have maintained pace, and they've managed to make it work here.
Don't know if I'm seeing it because I said it and now I want to see it, or I'm actually seeing it, but those Porsches seem very good in the final phase of the braking there, and that's where Dylan Shepherd did his best work, got up into second place.
Yeah, good stuff from all of the drivers involved in that machine. Of course, James Golding is driving with them as well. Big name if you're into your real life as well as your sim racing. Let's keep an eye out here on Sam Sutton in the DBM Beyond Blue car. Has he driven in the race yet? He has indeed. He first got into the car on lap 81 and then handed back over to Dan Yeaman on lap 115. It is now lap 229, and Sutton, I think, still just getting used to the car in maybe conditions that are slightly different to what they were when he first jumped in. There's a lot of pressure being piled on him, though, by James Scott.
Race leader with about a second and a half. Blackout OPR just far enough ahead to not be under too much pressure in the slipstream. Down Conrod straight here. That's the cars further back where it is ferocious. Replay from the Dipper at the only Ferrari with yellow headlights, Jinx shifters.
Is this a mistake from them? No, it's just a big dive from the number 13. Looks to me like that car has certainly been one of the... Oh dear. The number 10 coming off at the chase as well. It's been a very difficult last hour or so for FPS Evolved Driving. Involved in a big crash, which... you know, as they went to the checking up cars on the way down into the elbow, and once again, having a bit of trouble keeping it on the track. Back to the GT4 class, by the way. Eclipse Sim Sports has once again gotten a great restart off the safety car. Caleb Hydes holding on to a lead of 7.3 seconds over Joe Mugford, and it looks like the Slipstream Autosport car is harassing the back of the TTR McLaren. Don't forget about the HTS Racing yellow machine of Lee Vandenberg as well. Plenty of racing still to come for the top 3 in GT4.
Really quick stop as well. I've said it a couple times out of Slipstream Autosport. Jumped in that track position. They might be running a little bit lighter here as well, potentially. The other way would be if they'd saved a bit of fuel in the previous stint and they were carrying a little bit more than their rivals. They're certainly looking good at the moment. Joe Muckford not able to match what Caleb Hydes is doing at the lead of this class. Venture IP
no.
and Tyson Williams.
The pain just continues for the 222, doesn't it? This time it's lost its rear wing. They were involved in the incident that brought out that last safety car, and they might be bringing out yet another one. What happened to Tyson Williams coming down through the S's? Oh no! Just straight on and heavy into the barriers. He managed to get it moving. Actually, it is moving. So this might not be a safety car. Let's hope that they can make it back to the pits and we can stay green. The race control will be giving the caution warning to everyone coming up behind them. Ooh, keep it together, mate.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough ask, particularly once you start to look trying to go back uphill towards the chase.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they actually have the engine running right now. I don't think they do.
I mean, good on them doing 90 k's an hour if they have got no motor.
Now, he'll be hoping that he can make it up the hill here. Let's wait and see. Look at the speed drop. Oh no. This is going to be difficult.
Exactly the same reasons you've got to be so careful designing your roller coasters in Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, because you don't want them stalling at the top of the hill before they get back to the station.
No, certainly not. Well, Williams was able to keep that running, and actually looks like he is revving the absolute bejesus out of that engine. I don't have audio on my production feed, so I can't exactly tell. But this is the issue here. Do you commit to the chase or do you go across the gravel trap? I think staying on the track would be the easier way to do it. You might lose too much momentum on the gravel and grass.
You'll get bogged in the gravel. No chance. No chance your one-wheel drive makes it through the gravel. There's compilation videos on YouTube of that.
Yeah, that there are. Tyson Williams is going to stay offline, and wow, look at the state of that Ferrari. There
it's not
is
just
no
rear wheel
end.
drive. It's rear left wheel drive, because that right rear is dragging. That's the wonky wheel on the shopping trolley.
Yeah, that wheel's just not getting any momentum at all. It's actually being turned by rubbing on the tarmac. So the Ventra IP car will go into the pits as the rest of the field makes their way past. Those are the overall race leaders making their way through there. And fortunately, we will stay green. So, though the drivers have been advised to be cautious.
Get that thing back on the tarmac, Tyson Williams.
I think he might just be able to make it.
The only driven wheel that he's got is in the grass right now. Okay, we're back on the tarmac and into pit entry.
Okay, now all he needs to do is make sure that he doesn't beach it on the way into the pits. All right, back to the big train here. This is the battle for 6th. Jacob Todd has taken over the Altus Australia Ferrari, and Marino Morella back in the Alfa Venturi 919. Byron Pierce was in that car when we last checked in on it. Dennis Gatterick has handed the Pulsachuca Toyota Ferrari back to John Merritt. And we have John Piesnick remaining in the Evolution Racing Team 261. He has got 3 cars to pass here if he wants to try and have a run at the top 5. We should also mention that up ahead of this group, Alexander Bird is back in the WSR Esports butt kicker entry and should be getting up to speed pretty soon. But Piesnick will be looking at what that number 23 is doing. That's the car that they are closest to on pace.
Absolutely beautiful snaking serpentine view down from the dipper and towards the elbow. The GT3 field runs.
Meanwhile,
closing up here for GT4, but Caleb Hyde's leaving them in his dust, now out to 10 seconds over 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th place, 6th place, all within 1 shot here, heading up towards the cutting.
Yeah, this is a great fight that's going on here for 2nd place in GT4. Looks like the HTS Racing Mercedes has gained a little bit of pace on Slipstream and TTR. But Josh Perween now on the back of Joe Mugford, coming up through the left-handers across the top. Here we are, 2 battles on screen at once. Always love it. Just keeping an eye out on both of these feeds to see if anyone makes a slight error. Looks like Mugford is tipping the TTR McLaren into the dipper, something fierce, and I think left a couple of tyre tracks through there as well.
Fastest car on track at the moment is Dylan Shepherd in the blackout OPR machine, now within 1 second of Cody D. When was the last time we saw anyone have pace to match that Eclipse Sim Sport 56 Audi? Not recently.
Yeah, certainly not. It is worth pointing out, though, that that car did stay out under the safety car, the blackout OPR entry, so they haven't got much fuel on board. They're extracting a lot of pace out of that Porsche right now, but we should expect them to make their way back into the pits very shortly, potentially in about 5 laps time, I'm calling. Meanwhile, looks like John Merritt is trying his best to keep John Piesnick behind. Did you see how narrow he went in on the way into the elbow? No missing the bright red and yellow of the Pulsachuca Toyota Ferrari.
It makes me want, you know, a hamburger that's got an extra bun in the middle and some special sauce, but like just like a generic one.
Yeah, certainly. Hopefully, you know, some kind of non-potentially trademark infringing burger that a certain Golden Arches company won't take you to court for, like they did with a certain company here a while back. In any case, this is still looking like it's a battle that's waiting to explode. All of these cars here are on the same strategy now. They all pitted on the same lap under the safety car. They're still feeling out exactly who has the real pace around here. Oh dear. And
Damage
just on cue.
Front for the Vermilion Motorsport 65. How's the rear? That thing, it's not going anywhere. Oh, it's got drive.
Now
it's going places, but this is how it ended up there.
Okay, so passed by the Summit Sim Sports car. Summit was a little bit slow, and then contact with the 9.5 car. I'll tell you what, the 711 was almost involved in another huge incident there. Just managed to keep the rear end out of the wall, and I think took a bit of time to get it back into gear and moving. Fortunately, they have. So we do stay green, and fortunately it happened close to the pits as well, so we don't have to worry about the stress of seeing a car grinding around Bathurst for a lap.
So, Ventura IPM Sport still in the pit lane. According to that graphic, way out wide there for Alpha Venturi Racing. Morella. Valentine's Day is not so far away, and I think that wall on the exit of the elbow gets the most kisses.
Yeah, it certainly does, both in the real world and the sim world. Tell you what, at the front of this train, it seems like the Altus Australia car is starting to get a slight gap. Jacob Todd is up to rhythm now, and Marino Morella starting to feel the pressure of John Merritt behind. I haven't seen much of an advance forward from John Piesnik as well in the unmissable blue Porsche behind that Ferrari, which makes me think that Piesnik might be on a bit of a fuel save strat at the moment, potentially to get that car on something easy to the end.
There's two ways that can pay off for you as well, is either we go to a safety car, everyone pits together and you fuel quicker and you jump some through the lane, or we stay green and you look to go for an overcut. And I think we're seeing from Dylan Shepherd how quick the Porsches are on a light fuel load as well. So if you're like, okay, I'm not going to make a whole lot of passes through here, but I am going to save a lot of fuel, there are two ways that could pay off between here and the end.
Yeah, certainly are. John Piesnik probably hedging his bets on one of those options. Seems like coming up across the top of the mountain, Marino Morella is looking very good. You've pointed out a few times now, David, that the Porsche isn't the fastest down Conrod Straight, and when I looked at them last, they were just coming out of the chase. So across the top here, seems like Marino has it sorted out. Once they start getting down to the elbow and the run down Conrod, that's when John Merritt starts to gain a little bit more, and that's a wide entry there for Morella. Actually, a GT4 making things a bit difficult for them. Liam McIver in the Full Send Motorsports 770. This time, everyone in that train makes their way past cleanly, but that has compressed the pack. There might be a move coming for one of these cars. Question is, does Marino Morella want to stick to the fuel save strat, or will he leave the door open for John Merritt here? There goes Pulsar Chuka Toyota, and right through at the chase. Took advantage of the situation and made the move where it counted.
Yeah, a handful of more GT4s here as well that are going to be a little bit challenging. Test the drivers, they have to go offline and lose some time through all this. Still no change, second, third, and fourth in that class either, by the way, as they're now 14 seconds behind their class leader.
Yeah, still looking like they're all in lockstep here, but the HTS Racing Mercedes still looking like it could pounce at any moment if something happens between Trans-Tasman and Slipstream. Meanwhile, this is the battle going on further down the GT3 field. 16th place just ahead of these guys. The battle for 18th and 19th. Liam Reston versus Lawrence Clark. And Reston has the inside line coming into Griffins. And that's going to be easy as you like. Crown in the road, just too much for the Code 9 Ferrari to cope with. Seeing a little bit of a move here from Ethan Bass. He tried it on Aaron Gilbert coming into the cutting, but I think was a little bit optimistic, and that's brought him into the clutches of Reston now. Doesn't matter where you are in this field, you're involved in a battle somewhere.
Yep, it remains busy out there. An indication of the two headlight packages possible for a Ferrari here, as Aaron Gilbert has the sprint configuration, and the driver behind him, Ethan Bass, has got the full endurance lights on now and lining up behind Aaron Gilbert, who doesn't seem to quite have the pace of them across the top of the mountain here. But again, Ferrari pretty strong in a straight line. So it's a good exit out of Forest's elbow here, but you compromise that by trying to have nothing of a shallow look down the inside.
Well, Reston on the power. He's got a double slipstream here. He's going to try and make the move on Ethan Bass at the chase, but Bass is going to have the inside line when they get to the braking zone. That's where you want to be if you want to defend. And And it looks like Reston's decided, no, probably best that I sit behind for a little bit longer, but he has gone deep in the braking zone. Meanwhile, there's Slipstream Autosport up ahead of Trans-Tasman Racing. Looks like Josh Perween made the move on Joe Mugford at turn 2.
Lee Vandenberg very, very close in the HTS car just behind there as well. So we looked and looked and looked, nothing happening between these three cars. Now all of a sudden, it's Perween, good view, great move to the inside, out of the slipstream, in a Griffin's Bend, and that inside line, it's their only way.
He absolutely flung it up the inside, didn't he? But the camber in the road helped him to keep from moving out into Mugford. Well, now they're coming down the hill, and it looks like the slipstream car is actually looking pretty good there. Meanwhile, there's 7th place in GT4, Samuel Smith making his way out of the pits in the Veteran Gaming Australia green entry.
Reston made the move into Griffin's Bend this time, so that puts Bass back a spot.
Yeah, so there we go. Immediately, Reston, it seems, is right on the back of the Team Jinx Shifters 52 now. Aaron Gilbert's got a lot to contend with here. This is how the move was made for Reston. Just a good exit out of turn 1. As up ahead, Gilbert made the move on a GT4. And see, there you go. That's how you do 2 wide passing a GT4. Beautifully demonstrated there. And Liam Reston had all the room he needed to make that move. But now, GT4 traffic coming down the hill for them. You get the feeling there's going to be a move coming for Reston. There might be a move coming for John Piesnick as well. Marino Morella has got a fellow Porsche in his mirrors. Let's flick back to this one. Again.
Reston and Gilbert.
Oh, love this. Look at Reston. He's going for it. This time, last lap, he didn't want to make the move on Ethan Bass here, but he's made his way past Aaron Gilbert, and Bass is going to try and take advantage. That looks pretty deep there from Ethan, but he manages to pull it up at the apex. And look who took advantage of that. Lawrence Clark made his way past Aaron Gilbert too. They got the Pie Floaters car for company now as well.
Yeah, so a couple get around the Jinx Shifters car that might be nursing a little bit of damage. It just seems to be missing a bit of straight line speed at the end of these straights, to be honest.
Blackout OPR in the pits, meanwhile. Looks like Luke Rosella has brought that car into the lane, taking over from Dylan Shepherd there.
And there's a world where they get to the end with one stop from here. It's not a likely one, but it involves a lot of safety cars and them falling in the right place as well.
Indeed.
We'll see.
That we shall. So, Luke Rosella bringing it out of the lane. Dylan Shepherd entered. Luke Rosella exits. Let's see what kind of pace they've got here. Of course, on a full tank, times will be a little bit slower, and the track is still rather hot. It's gone down, actually, by 4 degrees since we started the broadcast here. Back down to 44. So, a little bit better than it was, but still not ideal.
Outright leader Cody Deeth now has 4.5 seconds to second place.
The Trans-Tasman Racing car's gone behind HTS Racing as well.
Okay, we'll check that out from GT4 in a second.
Yeah, we shall.
So this group here, that's where the outright leader's at right now. Cutting his way through, but again, it looks like it's going to be at the ends of Mountain Straight.
Yeah, looks like it. Seems like Mugford might be struggling a little bit for traction coming out of turn 1. He's still fighting it on live pictures. Attempting around the outside of the first turn, and actually, oh no, there's contact! There's been contact! Both Trans-Tasman Racing and HTS Racing. They're stopped on the track right now. We apologize for missing that. Careful on the re-entry, Joe. Managed to get that sorted, but that could have been dangerous. Unfortunately, it looks like Mugford, he tried around the outside of Lee Vandenberg and he made it work, but I think Vandenberg may not have given him enough room on the exit. We'll have to check the replay again to see exactly how that went down. So off the curb. Yeah, it's difficult to call. I mean, obviously, Vandenberg got a bit of side-by-side contact. You could argue that Mugford didn't really have anywhere to go. Not too sure, but that has ultimately ruined the run for both of those cars. That means that Slipstream Autosport is now safe in second in GT4, and SLM Motorsport Pink is now rounding out the top three.
Yeah, it was just behind. This group had started to catch the battle at SLM Motorsport Pink before that happened. So it happened right in front of them, and they went through into third.
Yeah, they've been managing to keep it clean, but it's still continuing. The other HTS Mercedes in the GT3 class making its way past the TTR McLaren. Meanwhile, looks like it's on for second overall. Vermilion Motorsports 28 under massive pressure from Sam Sutton, who actually has just been passed by James Scott. So Vermilion up into P2. I tell you what, that little exchange I think has given an advantage to Alex Bird and Jacob Todd in the chasing cars behind. Looks like this happened at the chase. So Sutton ahead at this point, but then James Scott just dives up the inside. That was a very big move there. I'm surprised he pulled it up.
He did, and now moves up into second, but that group's gone from being 4.5 to being 8.5 seconds behind the outright race leader. WSR and Altus Australia have gotten a little bit closer as well.
Yeah, have a look at this. Alex Bird making some big moves up the hill.
There must have been some monumental GT4 traffic on that lap just completed as well that boxed them all up and cost James Scott going on 4 seconds the previous lap. It all happened in one lap, that gap.
Oh, okay, that's looking a little awkward. More trouble with GT4 traffic for James Scott there. Looks like the locked-on racing car of Callum Heinrich was just trying to stay out of the way, but it's difficult to do. And through that section of the circuit, that almost gave another chance for Sutton to make his way back through, but nothing doing for the time being. What it has done is it's brought the Pulsachuca Toyota entry ever closer. John Peasnick and Matthew Bowler in the two ERT cars behind, still trailing and just watching what's going on ahead, hoping to make a move. Tell you what, Alexander Bird will be familiar with slipstreaming in a peloton. He was a cyclist for a period. At least that's what I remember him telling me. So he has some at least semi-professional sporting experience out there outside of sim racing.
So what weight of spring do you think he's running on his brake pedal?
Oh, he's probably gone for the stiffest possible.
120 kilos?
Oh, yeah. I reckon.
Have a banana before you stint. You don't want to cramp up.
No, certainly not. Could always get some good TikTok content out of a major cramp. All right, on board with Alex Bird. Car 23 has been one of the fastest out there all weekend. Were it not for the mistake that Bird made at the start of his shootout lap, it might be a very different looking race for them. And we saw them involved in a crash early on. It's been a great recovery from the WSR Esports butt kicker Audi. Now they are looking at a position in the top three. Sam Sutton looking slightly less comfortable than Alex Bird is in his car. Let's see what the run is like out of the elbow.
Runs good through the dipper. Got another half a car length there from the onboard. You get to watch. Does the Ferrari start to just outpace you a little bit here? Car in front also with a little bit of that slipstream as Sam Sutton can slipstream off James Scott down the straight.
No pressure from behind either. It looks like the Altus 111 has started to lose out under pressure from John Merritt. A little bit of an advantage gained in the braking zone, but I think Bird's just biding his time here, waiting for a mistake from Sam Sutton. Meanwhile, penalties just come through from race control. The incident that we saw between HTS Racing Yellow and Trans-Tasman Racing, seems that HTS Racing has been deemed at fault for that incident. They have been given a drive-through penalty for that contact.
So we'll have another look at it. So, covering the inside here at Hell Corner. On the exit, still got the McLaren out there. And just drifting across on him. Is how race control saw it.
Yeah, I think, you know, a little bit of side contact that ballooned into the Mercedes being sucked into the McLaren up to a point, but you could easily make the argument that Vandenberg should have left a little bit more room for Joe Mugford.
There's a few things that have ended poorly after we've seen drivers think, oh, I can just squeeze them a little bit here.
Yeah,
rather
true.
than how much space can I give them here? Now, you know, again, sometimes you have a little squeeze, it works out well for you. We'll see from the shoe on the other foot.
Yeah, so Mugford got a very good initial drive out of Hell Corner, didn't he? And, I mean, he did move to the left just a little bit, but that was coming off the curb. Looked to me like he was keeping the car straight as soon as the curb ended. Difficult to tell, really, and I certainly don't envy Race Control's position in that matter. Meanwhile, this battle shows no signs of ending, especially considering Jacob Todd has started to gain a little more here on Alex Bird. Sam Sutton has been dropping back steadily from James Scott, the Vermilion Motorsports 28, jetting away in second place. I'm wondering, seeing as Alex Bird hasn't really made a move on Sam Sutton, potentially WSR are starting to change their tack a little bit, thinking about saving a bit of fuel for the next stop.
We do have a big solid pack of cars here for the second place now, with the leader now having over 10 seconds on them. A few of the drivers here like Altus Australia, like John Peasnick in the Evolution Racing Team Porsche back there, sort of started to close up on the podium spots of second and third here. And then not a whole lot happening once they've got here. So that will be interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking at this fight. I'm looking at this whole train of cars for third place, and it's giving me similar vibes to what was the sixth place battle a short while ago. Just waiting for something to happen, waiting for someone to make a move and for the entire battle to explode. John Merritt, I think, biding his time too, but he's going to have to look in his mirrors very shortly. Look at how close John Peasnick is now.
On board with the 7th place Porsche.
Car that was running up in the top three for the majority of the race. They have a lot more pace underneath them than this initial part of the current broadcast shows. Once again, I'm seeing that gap balloon out. Looks like Jacob Todd might be having issues getting out of the elbow. Maybe the slipstream that Alex Bird is getting from Sam Sutton is too powerful for the Altus Australia car to keep up.
It starts to get close towards Griffin's Bend. Hello, Wiper Blade. Rain
hello, little look.
soon.
Yes. Confirmed soon.
Yeah, so more than hashtag soon. It's hashtags more than soonish.
Okay, we're apparently hearing a time frame, 4 weeks or so. Going to be exciting times ahead for iRacing, confirmed for the March build. So next Bathurst 12-hour we run may very well be rain affected. Certainly the Bathurst 1000s that we're running later in the year will be.
And everything at Phillip Island, a high chance of rain intervention.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
High chance of penguin intervention.
Jay saying Winton will nearly be snowing. Oh lordy. Exciting times ahead for iRacers all over the world, and potentially terrifying times for some who believe that there's going to be issues with rain. Technical issues, meanwhile, for Sam Sutton in the DBM Beyond Blue car. He has disappeared off the circuit. Looks like a network issue for Sutton. Oh, he is back, but oh, that was very difficult there. Sutton, I think, actually got on the brakes. Probably thought that it was best to get out of it because there were so many cars so close to him. But that's a big loss for car 862 in contention for a podium.
Still slow, so I wonder if there's another problem.
Maybe it's a hardware issue?
Yeah, I'm trying to think some combination of that.
Or at the very least, I don't know, like the network cable getting loose. It's going into the pits. This is difficult here for Sam Sutton. Well, what that has done is it has gifted WSR Esports butt kicker a podium position, and I think it raises the stakes a little for the 3 cars following. John Piesnik now only has 2 cars in between himself and Alexander Bird. And we know that the ERT 261 can run similar, if not slightly better pace than the Vermilion and WSR cars.
Hearing that, in fact, some of those issues for the DBM car might have been stuck in second gear. That'd explain something.
Yeah, it doesn't explain the blinking, though. That's the interesting part of it. Potentially a tech issue and then the gear shifter didn't work anymore, but I don't know how that would be connected. Hardware and network stuff in iRacing is separate usually. In fact, that's the same in any racing sim, let alone iRacing. So
HTS Green and Summit Simsport, 2 Mercedes here.
Yep, 2 of the more striking liveries out there. This is the battle for 12th place in the field now, with the DBM Beyond Blue car remaining in the pits for quite some time. Sam Sutton stopped for 38.3 seconds. He's back out on the circuit, but down in 24th place. And Liam Reston has been looking very aggressive since he got back into that car, hasn't he? We saw him pull some pretty fantastic moves earlier, and he's looking for another one here on Ashley Collins. Nothing to be done coming into Murray's, but I get the feeling we might see another move at Griffin's Bend, unless he psychs him out here. Oh yeah, there we go.
Have a dig at Hell Corner, and it works out well. And it'll probably stay ahead up the hill towards Griffin's Bend. Change for the leader of GT4.
Kobe Williams back in that car. Will Slipstream Autosport bring it back in?
I wouldn't think any of the GT4s would need to at this point. So it's got to be some level of tactical thing. Had
I mean,
70 laps maximum in a stint, right?
75.
They reached
And
that?
that's for a 3-car team. I'm wondering. I don't know how many laps. Yeah. No. Caleb only got in the car 20 laps ago, and he hadn't been that long in the car besides. So maybe it's an overall percentage thing? I'm not too sure, honestly. Caleb has done a lot of the car's laps, so maybe they're just hedging their bets there.
Caleb's done 102, Beswick's done 77, Kobe Williams has done 62, and he's gotten back in.
Looks like, Trans-Tasman Racing getting Jake Burton into the car.
So, mugged it out. Jake Burton in, so another stop from GT4.
Okay. So, Bluetooth rim failure for Sutton. I had no idea there were Bluetooth wheel rims out there. Apparently the dongle fell out, and that's the reason for the issue for the 862.
I can vouch for if you're in a session and you plug a USB device in, sometimes you drop network for half a second while Windows tries to work out what the hell it's routing through what.
Yeah, that explains it. So, just an unfortunate real-world physical space issue for Sam Sutton in the 862, and that is, unless there's another safety car, really put paid to their run at a podium position. Meanwhile, FPS Evolved Driving, the number 10 Audi, has come into the lane. Shane Ward taking over that car after only 22 laps completed, so that might be another driver percentage play there. Gently does it for John Merritt, who's been holding station really well, hasn't he? The Pulsar Toyota car now up into the top 5. It's been a long, difficult recovery for them. So, oh no.
GT4 leader on cold tyres has been off the road. Cold tyres have been absolutely fraught with challenges in GT4 at all stages of this race so far. I don't see a panel out of place on that Aston Martin at the moment, and they had a 30-second lead before the current round of pit stops that's evolving, but that is still far from ideal as we take a look at it.
Yeah, as you said, no damage on the Aston. Fortunately for Kobe Williams, it was just a case of losing it at the one point on the circuit where you actually have runoff to work with. And even then, he mostly kept it on the track, albeit sideways. Had to take a bit of avoiding action there, the cars ahead of them. He's back up to speed now.
You can't take as much curb on the cold tyres either because the tyre's not as inflated. The tyre works as part of the suspension, but it's not damped. It's not a controlled bouncing vibration when you've got under pressure tyres, so you need to stay off the curbs a little more on the cold tyres because they don't react as well as the suspension with a fully inflated tyre does. And then they don't grip as well when they land off that bounce either.
No, and I remember us talking with Scott Rankin in the morning's broadcast that that's a characteristic of the GT4s as well. The suspension is not as sophisticated as it is on the GT3, so you really do have to be careful with how much curb you take when the tyres are cold. So, just up ahead of these guys is the GT4 leader now, and it's resulted in Alex Bird having to back off a little bit in his pursuit of James Scott for second place. These three are about to come up on Kobe Williams. Should be a nice, easy move. One side of the track to the other, down on Conrod Straight. Here we go then. There is Kobe Williams. And this will be a nice, simple slipstream move. At the very least, Jacob Todd's going to get by him before they get to the chase. It looks like John Merritt's going to get him in the braking zone as well, but John Peacenik is going to have to yield for one single corner more. Altogether, a lot less drama than happened at that location last lap.
Big switch of lanes from Merritt as he looks to get down the inside of the traffic. That's leaving plenty of space, not only to this GT3 battle, but their own class leader. Was their class leader, isn't at the moment. Still needing a pit stop from Erwin, Dylan Gray, Tim Harris, Lee Vandenberg before Kobe Williams in the Eclipse Aston Martin goes back through into the lead of the race. But I think critical for Kobe Williams is that he's still solidly ahead of Jake Burton and TTR, who've been their biggest rivals of late. The other comparison they need to be worried about is to that Slipstream Porsche.
Yeah, Slipstream's definitely been doing all right in the last stint, haven't they? Hearing Jay say something's happened to Pie Floaters, I'm sitting here like, again? They've had plenty of issues since we come back. A little bit of a slide on the way into Forest Elbow. Just hit the inside wall there. And it looks like that's taken a little bit out of the front left corner.
Pie on the roof of the car, but they have knocked the suspension way out by just getting that bit of wall that sticks out very late. It's blind as you go in. You're trying to hug the apex at Forest Elbow, and there's just that one little bit of concrete that sticks out a little bit more than the rest. And you always got to be aware of it. You feel like you've got a good line when you get right to it. Sometimes you turn in a little too much, a little too tight. It sort of sticks out there.
Yeah, sometimes it's better for you to run just a tiny bit wide of the inside wall at the elbow, though the fastest drivers will try and stick to the inside as best they can. The wall tends to stick out a little bit in the middle of the line through the corner. Well, that's far behind these guys now, as Thomas Hinz takes over the Team Jinx Shifters 52 and brings that one out of the pits. That car obviously with its own set of troubles. Down in 22nd place now. Just waiting for the next opportunity to take advantage of issues for others. Potentially another safety car. You never know. So it looks to me like John Merritt has put in some good driving over the last lap or two and is starting to leave John Piesnik in the dust. There has been a slight bit of traffic for these guys. Piesnik, I think, having a little bit less of a good time with it. But just looking at the lap times, Piesnik lost half a second on the last lap alone. See how much of it he gains back when they come across the top.
Yep, Piesnik looks like he, from one of the other onboards, like he got real up close to the wall. Somewhere. I can't remember what's the exit of the cutting, but he might have scraped it and given himself a little bit of a scare as he went as well.
Yeah, potentially. Sometimes when that happens from the driver's perspective, it's best to just back off and take stock for a lap or so before you really get back on it. I mean, you get tunnel vision when you're driving at a high pace for such a long time in races like this. It's very easy for you to, just let muscle memory take hold, and sometimes when it's a little bit off, it can stand the chance of ruining your race.
Seems to be a bit of a bug and tire debris magnet.
Yeah, certainly.
The false Echuca Toyota car.
Yeah, not looking as clean as it did at the start, that's for sure.
Ooh.
Well, remember that they were involved in an incident at the very start that gave them heavy damage, and they had to take their fast repair. Every team gets a single fast repair to use over the race, so yeah, that car has not been freshened up for a very long time.
Back here where Orbit DBM gotten ahead of Cool Drive Racing.
Yep, the 268 has certainly been through the wars, hasn't it? Ethan Bass at the wheel of that one. The cool drive car of Brett Barker giving up the position as a safety car has been called, and I think this might be a random one.
I didn't hear anything come across of any cars that were requesting to tow.
Okay. So that is the second or third random safety car of the race. It's the third. So that brings us up to 15, I believe, over the course of this race. 3 randoms and 12 incident safety cars. So I would suspect that there's going to be a response from the vast majority of the GT3 field. I know that Middle Finger Racing immediately jumped into the pit lane there. Gavin Barber has taken over that car from Wayne Taylor.
What interests me is how this affects maybe Slipstream Autosport and also SLM in the GT4 field, because there's not a whole lot of variety going on in GT3, if we're honest.
Yeah.
But in GT4, we had this split going on where 2 of our top 5 cars and what was our race leader pitted under green, and now there's a chance that this gives a bit of free time to Slipstream or SLM and may have Eclipse ruining that little spin they had on cold tires, because they had the 30-second buffer and then they lost about 15 there, and they lose 15 somewhere along in this safety car. It looks like they're motoring along pretty strong here at the moment, so probably not losing too much.
Oh, I think they were thinking about going in, but ultimately decided not to. So they're going to come around here and retake the GT4 lead, with Josh Perween in the Slipstream Autosport car just coming to the end of his stop now. And there he goes, 48.6 seconds stopped. And it looks like the gap has stayed exactly the same between them and the SLM Motorsport pink car. Kyle Ridley has taken over that BMW from Dylan Gray.
So we thought Piesnik was maybe saving a bit of fuel in the previous stint. If he saved a lot, he could be out of the lane quick. Some of these stops still could be limited on the tyre change time, which is about 25 seconds.
Ethan Bass did not come into the lane in the Orbit DBM entry, and that's interesting because they were on almost the same strategy as the rest of the GT3 field, if not exactly the same strategy. So I'm left scratching my head at that one.
How's the stop time for Jake Burton?
Looks to me like, yeah, splash and dash, 11.9 seconds. Trying to hold on to something here. They're currently in 7th place in class. And it looks like 9.5 SimSport, 9.51 out of the lane as well. Safety car has picked up the overall race leader. The GT4 in between them and Ethan Bass in the Orbit DBM Ferrari.
So, was there damage to be repaired on the Evolution Racing Team 261? Because I'm seeing a pretty long stop from them, about 12 extra seconds. And I said out loud, and we thought about it earlier, maybe they're saving a bit of fuel for a shorter stop. They've had a longer stop than everyone else. Riskasul has gotten in, but if you just discount Orbit DBM who didn't stop, then that ERT Porsche kind of went from 6th to 9th.
Yeah, thereabouts at least. So that's another head scratcher moment there. I'm wondering what exactly has gone on.
There are other 2 team cars, Sebastian Flock and Ian Ford as well. So yeah, there's a normal pit stop time, 37 seconds. Rapid Team Rennsport, Evolution Racing Team in this Porsche, a little bit longer, and I have a feeling like maybe they had a 10, 15, 20 seconds of optional repairs that they decided to cover off from the wall scrape earlier on.
They still have their fast repair available. It's just been pointed out to us. So, yeah, they're probably taking that opportunity to fix a little bit of the bodywork damage on that car. Meanwhile, Ethan Bass does bring the Orbit DBM car into the lane, but probably a lap too late. They are going to fall all the way to the back of the grid here.
Didn't they do this last time? A lap late into the lane compared to everyone else?
I think they did. Unless I'm thinking about a different car.
No, I'm looking at my stints, and I'm pretty sure they did that in that car, and we talked about it last stop. It was an odd choice then. It remains an odd choice now. An hour 42 on the clock. No one in any class is making it to the end without an extra stop here. It's not like we're in a fuel save to the end situation after this safety car where one extra lap of fuel will make you look like a hero.
Yeah, okay. Well, a lot of stuff to think about. We will come back with the results of our number crunching, if we ever get a result, under safety car here at the Oceanic Sim Racing Bathurst 12-hour. We've still got Eclipse Sim Sport in the lead in both classes. Whether or not they'll be able to hold on to that in the GT4s is yet to be seen. I'm Reese Gardner, David Haynes with me, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes. We're going to be back in 2 minutes' time here on SimSpeed TV.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You're watching SimSpeed TV, the 5th annual OSR Bathurst 12-hour. We are under the third random safety car of the race. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the rule book, there is a potential for between 0 and 4 random safety cars over the course of the 12 hours. And the first and final 30 minutes of racing, random safety cars cannot occur in that time frame. So this may very well be the last random safety car we see, with only an hour and 39 minutes remaining on the clock. I'm Reese Gardner. David Haynes is alongside me in the comms box. Jay Kennedy is bringing you these live pictures of Evolution Racing Team 262 coming into the pits.
Yeah, is this a little unexpected? They were in the lane 2 laps ago. Sebastian Flock bringing the car back in. Black flag on Orbit DBM and Bailey Sweeney. So that brings them in, but I didn't see that for the ERT car.
Once again, it feels like there's been a few interesting pit decisions here under safety car. It looks like Hayden Veld's jumping back in the 262. Again, that's probably a minimum and maximum driver percentage play, of which we've seen a few so far, at least what we presume to be. So the way things are in GT4 right now is waiver rounds have just been done for that class. Slipstream Autosport holding on to second place in front of SLM Motorsport Pink. The Eclipse Sim Sports GT4 leading the way is almost a full lap ahead. But the waiver round will soon fix that.
They've been very, very clever in this team at understanding where the outright race leader is, what the outright race leader is likely to do because it's their teammate, but then also the rest of the GT3 field. And we've seen stuff like, oh, they're not pitting at the first opportunity, they're staying out and then pitting at the second opportunity, and that still keeps them at the front. And so they've been very, very aware of who will get waved around where and where they'll end up relative to the GT3 lead and the safety car, depending on when they pit. So you got to hand it to them, the level of pace that they've had in that Aston Martin across this race so far, but also they've made a couple of little decisions that have been quite clever around their strategy as well.
So this is the 711 Rogue Sim Sports Porsche, a car that we've seen involved in a few incidents so far. It looks like there's another one on the way into pit lane. It's always difficult to line up pit entry at Mount Panorama, especially when you've got a whole bunch of cars trying to find their way in ahead of you. And it looked like a very big check up there for the 711. Craig Roffey at the wheel of that machine, but it seems to me like the pit stop was completed without too many issues. Safety car should be pulling away next lap, I believe.
Because it's still a bunch of waiver rounds to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got to wait for those waiver rounds to be completed, and then we can begin the race restart procedure. For context,
this is some pretty waiver around looking GT4s.
Yeah, indeed they are.
Unless their pit stop meant that they're now still coming around to catch the pack.
I mean, they are. They kind of are. I mean, I don't know if they've had to slow down a little bit or if they have decided to come into the lane, but you see that the front of the field is
they've been
the
waved.
rise coming up to the chase. Yeah. They were already waved around. I think, they were just, I think, taking their time a little bit. So the last car in the line at the moment is going to be Isaac Edwards in the JTIT race on Oz number 16. And he's just coming through Griffin's Bend now. That's on the opposite side of the circuit to Eclipse Sim Sports and the safety car at the very front of the train. There's Isaac. He's certainly had plenty of track time in this car so far. And I think that they've definitely had some dramas, haven't they, in this car? They are 10 laps down on the overall lead, and it looks to me like 4 laps down on the GT4 lead. So it's good to see that they're still plugging away in spite of the issues they've been facing.
A little bit of panel beating could beat that bumper back out.
It'll buff out. Oh, Orbit DBM back in the pits again. Bailey Sweeney brings it in and tops off
that's another
the fuel
black flag.
once more, potentially. No, it's a black flag.
I'm still seeing another black flag for Orbit DBM.
Oh no. Okay. So have they exited the pits too fast, or have they just entered the pit lane again too fast?
Well, maybe they didn't clear it last time. Maybe it wasn't a drive-through. It was a stop, because it's definitely drive-throughs for incident limits, right? But speeding in pit lane and unsafe pit exit, I think, can sometimes still be a stop in the box, and the black flag clears now. I just think didn't successfully serve the penalty last time.
Well then, maybe we can get a representative from Orbit DBM to confirm to us the issues that car has been having. Well, last car on the train, as I mentioned, Isaac Edwards, just coming into Hell Corner, turn 1 right now, as the front of the field coming through the cuttings. So I think we're going to be getting all nicely in order very, very soon. Hopefully, by the end of this lap, we will get ourselves back online for some green flag racing. I'm not seeing the headlights flashing on the safety car anymore, so I think that is the first sign that we're going to begin the restart procedure. The next sign is that the front cars are weaving to keep some heat in their tires. Of course, It is always up for debate whether or not that actually does anything, but if it works for the drivers, why not?
You haven't considered a super serious tyre guide?
Oh no. Look, racetracks are one thing, tyres are entirely another. We're hearing speeding in pit lane for Orbit DBM, and Jack Styles has come into the broadcast chat and said black flag not served correctly. So just issues compounding upon issues for Orbit DBM. So they thought it was a drive-through, but it was actually a stop and hold. So they went past their pit box when they should have stopped in it, and iRacing went no.
There are other server configurations where you wouldn't even be allowed to serve that behind the safety car.
Of course. Thank goodness with the manual safety cars here, we are able to have teams get a bit more freedom in pit lane, and sometimes that means freedom to make their own mistakes. Well, safety car period is ending. Down Conrod Straight we come. The safety car well ahead of the rest of the field. It's not even in the frame right now, I think, just coming back into pit lane. So the field falls under the control, once again, of Dylan Burse, who's back in the Eclipse Sim Sports 56 Audi with nearly 90 minutes remaining. WSR in second place here. Let's keep an eye out for Daniel Ferguson, who's taken over that car from Alexander Bird. Jacob Todd remains in the Altus Australia 111. Ben Faulkner has taken over the Vermilion Motorsports 28 from James Scott. On the power we come. Let's go into Murray's Corner to begin the 256th lap of the 2024 OSR Bathurst 12-hour. Another well-executed start from Eclipse. Once they get up to pace, let's see what WSR can do.
A few of them a little wide. Out of hell corner there. Some of the Ferraris as well. I think Vermilion might have kicked up a little bit of dirt, but they are for sure not the only, as we have the look down the long straight, and you can just pick out the GT4 leader there and the little advantage that they've got in hand likewise. Two classes of racing with 90 minutes left.
I'm interested to see that the gap for the leader has not extended as far out as I expected. Under the last few restarts, the Eclipse Sim Sports Audi has absolutely jetted away from the field. That hasn't quite been the case here. Once they get to the top of the mountain, we'll see what kind of difference there is between the two Audis. And this is, I think, a bit of a rare comparison. It's been a while since we've seen two of the same model of car at the front of this field. So let's see whether or not Dylan Burse or Daniel Ferguson has a better handle of the Audi. Meanwhile, battle of the Ferraris, three of them to be exact, followed by one Mercedes. Down in here, speaking of Mercedes, Veteran Gamers Australia, that is a problem there at the cutting. That's the green car. Black flag again for Orbit DBM.
Exiting closed pit when they served or attempted to serve one of those penalties. So let's clear this up, right? They had a penalty, and then they drove through pit lane trying to clear it, which didn't clear it because it was a stop and go. So they had to come back in for the stop and go, and then they exited a closed pit, which has given them a penalty.
God, I mean...
Did you write that one down?
If I was in their position at this point, I'd just park it out of embarrassment. But, of course, that's just me. I'm a very easily embarrassed person.
That's how you get up to 33 trips into pit lane.
Yeah, certainly. Wow. Well, commiserations to Orbit DBM. Obviously, I mean, they did technically break the rules, so the penalty is justified. But, yeah, that's got to be painful, having to come into the pits yet again after so many trips through there. All right. Some clarification. Right, so the reason they had to pit to serve the penalty under safety car That is the iRacing issued black flag. With iRacing issued black flags, it has to be served within 3 laps regardless of the safety car. So unfortunately, iRacing black flag conflicting a little bit there with race control and their rules, I think.
So we talked about long stop for Evolution Racing Team and Reece Gasol. Which we'll get to as, that's just wide on the way in on the marbles and a bit of damage on the back. Obviously that car got going again eventually. But for Evolution Racing Team's 261, they've made up a couple of spots on this restart so far. We know they're one of the quicker cars. And so if they cleaned off that car with the long stop, tidied up some of the damage, maybe replaced the panel or two, they could be in a good place come the end of this race. And they are just at the tail of this train, having made 2 spots on the restart and lining up Rapid Team Rennsport.
Yeah, here we go. Conrod Straight is the place for Slipstream, and it looks like the ERT 261 of Reece Gasol is starting to get one. But it's not quite enough to make the move into the braking zone. Wondering if Ian Ford and the 260 might help out their fellow team car. It'll be interesting to see. Meanwhile, SLM Motorsport, 3rd place right now, chasing down the Slipstream Porsche. This is a great battle to look at here. These cars have been very close to each other for the last stint or so. Josh Perween, initially versus Dylan Gray, now versus Kyle Ridley, who's gearing up potentially for a move shortly if the Slipstream is with him. A lot of curb usage there in the BMW, and you saw how much that affected the car's pace through the corner.
Yes, gearing up using 3rd, 4th and 5th of the 7 speeds in the BMW's gearbox. It's the road car ratios. 1st and 2nd entirely useless. 6th very rarely useful. 7th entirely useless. Doesn't seem to hold it back too much though. Seemed like it was pretty good in a straight line just then.
Yeah, certainly did. Well, it looks like the momentum is now up for Eclipse Sim Sports. I said off the restart, they're not as far ahead as I thought they'd be. Neck minute, 2.5 second gap over 2nd place. So Dylan Burse is more than comfortable there in the lead. WSR Esports butt kicker facing all the pressure from behind, it seems. Altus Australia, Vermilion Motorsports and Pulse Echuca Toyota all in the firing line at the moment.
Really close. There's the bit of the wall that sticks out you've got to be careful of. Got to be careful of the wall on the outside there as well. John Merritt was so close behind Ben Faulkner, who just knocked a bit of the dust off the apex there in his pursuit of the best line out onto Conrod Straight speeds. Approaching 265 as they go over the crest, beyond 270 as they turn into the chase and break so deep into this recent addition to Mount Panorama 37 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. 1987 was when the chase was added to the circuit. Oh no, that's the DBM Beyond Blue car, Sam Sutton. He already had faced a hardware issue earlier, and now I think there's been a coming together with another car in the chase. He stopped. So what happened here? Doesn't look like there was any other cars around him. Potentially this is an issue that Sutton suffered by himself. He was a bit wide, and then the Alpha Venturi car comes in, and then the Summit Sim Sports car bounces him around.
Was he stuck in gear again? Did it not shift up? On the exit of the corner, like he was wide on the way in, but on the exit, did it stay in gear and not shift up?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We might have to get an onboard for that and be able to see the wheel as well. Fortunately, the car's made it back into the pits, so we won't have yet another safety car from that. All right, keep an eye on the dash here as Sam Sutton makes his way into the chase. Down 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, turns in. That was a bit of a big turn in there. And yeah, it's stuck in 2nd gear.
Wow, and it hasn't been his day, his week, his month, or even his year in this race.
No, absolutely not. Wow, I'm beginning to wonder if those issues continue for Sam Sutton. They might have to think about putting someone else into the car, but then you have to consider, will they be in violation of the minimum and maximum rules.
Sutton will have to have been in the car for 25 laps for the driver who was in before him to be able to get back in is one of the things there. Merritt so close on 4th place here, then 3rd, 2nd up the road, and Dylan Burst now 3 seconds clear in the lead of the race inside of your top 10. These are the closest cars, 4th and 5th Ferraris.
Yeah, this is very close. There goes John Merritt. The gap opened on the inside and he's taken it. Bit of a bump on the way through. Ben Faulkner just pulling out in time to avoid turning him around. And he might try and get this back. He's weaving in the rearview mirrors. Oh, Merritt looking a little slow on the entry into Murray's. This is fantastic.
Yeah, pretty robust now with 90 minutes to go. Faulkner was kind of covering the inside a little bit. Merritt was on the traditional line, and then as Faulkner came back across, Merritt dived for the inside late, but the guy in front of you swaps. You're entitled to swap as well, I think. Now he's got to cover the inside up the hill to Griffin's Bend. You've got to cover the inside. He's far enough ahead.
Yeah, Ben Faulkner, I think, was thinking about it, but you know, if you're not at least a little alongside the other car, not worth making the move into turn 2. In any case, what that little exchange has done is brought Ian Ford, Dylan McAuliffe, and Rhys Gasol back into the fold once more.
Yeah, Ian Ford, the best ERT car at the moment after that long stop for the Porsche. So the Mercedes coming alive a little bit here. Track temp's down to 38 Celsius. Again, we saw a peak of about 50. We got down to the 40s and now we're down to 38, cooling off a little bit. Racing heating up somewhat. You're looking for the blue line from as high as 52 down to 38 on the track now.
Yeah, the track temperature is continuing to drop as the sun dips further below in the sky. It's coming up to 4:20 p.m. in sim time as they blaze it down Conrod Straight for the 260th time. You know I had to do it. Jay's saying well done in the background, but I get the feeling it's a bit sarcastic. Yeah, I know. It's just timing, really.
It takes effort to not say it, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, certainly. I resist the urge every single day. In any
Black
case...
and OPR, they're back on the regular strategy. There's a team that's not.
Oh, okay. So Summit Sim Sports making their way into the pits there.
Because of a black flag, so probably incident limit?
No, it's a race control issue, black flag. Contact lap 258. I think that was for them turning Sutton around. Speaking of contact, that's a bit of an issue at Murray's. One of the ERT Mercedes and the number 10 Audi. Hayden Veld in the 262. Getting into Shane in the number 10. Shane Ward obviously has had quite a few adventures in this race so far. And... looks like Hayden's redressing. It looks like just at the exit of Murray's, I think the FPS Evolve driving car didn't get as much drive off the corner as the ERT Merc did. You'll see the contact here. Veld gets into the corner. It's a narrow entry for the number 10, and then Veld just gets into the back of them on the exit.
All that while Summit Sim Sports Everest was in the lane serving their drive-through.
Keep our eye as well on GT4 because look who's back in the fold. Trans-Tasman Racing. Jake Burton chasing down Josh Purween and Kyle Ridley. There's been a trade for position between SLM and Slipstream. So we will find that and show you how it happened, but keep your eye on this. It's going to be single file all the way up the mountain, but I think Jake Burton might be lining up a move on these guys. The Trans-Tasman Racing McLaren started on pole in the GT4 class, so we know how much pace there is in that car.
Someone was asking where's the BMWs. Well, second at the moment here in GT4. Really long legs. Tough to pass over the top of the hill. So when you do get that track position, you like having that extra straight line speed. but we know two very quick cars behind. Slipstream Porsche looking a little more wayward. And Reese, I think this is those long legs.
Yeah, for sure. Getting in the slipstream down Conrad over the rise and into the chase. That is a massive straight line speed advantage for the SLM BMW, and it was done before they even got to the braking zone. Nicely done there. As we go back to live pictures, they are still in the same order they were, but Josh Perween, I think, starting to feel the pressure here from Jake Burton.
Yeah, good exit, great drive from Jake.
Hearing that there was a VR issue for Sam Sutton as the move is made for Trans-Tasman. And once again, it's a case of just blasting past the Porsche on Conrad Straight. Next target for TTR is the SLM Motorsport car. There's a lot of room there for Jake Burton to make up some pace in the braking zone. And once again, a little bit of a hit to the curb for the BMW, which you can see really unsettles it, especially compared to the other GT4 cars. So Burton will be looking to get the best exit possible here out of Hell Corner. Kyle Ridley got some great drive out of there himself, but the momentum is with the TTR car, and this might be a move into Griffins. Will Ridley defend?
Higher the ride height, longer the suspension, potentially the bouncier. Good straight line speed from the McLaren there with a great run down the inside, and from fourth to third to second for Trans-Tasman Racing now.
And that's a poor run through Griffin's Bend for the BMW. Too much curb on the inside. Oh, that's deep. Oh, for a second there, I thought for sure Kyle Ridley was going to get into the back of Jake Burton there. So now for Josh Perween, the issue is, can he take advantage of a mistake from the BMW? We've seen a couple of them in short succession. Let's see how that happened again. Ridley, oh man, he just pulled that up in time, didn't he? Seems like Burton, if anything, braked a little early for the cutting.
Yeah, potentially on a bit of a shallow line in as well.
Oh, slide for the BMW just as we went to the replay there. I'm sure we'll get that in a moment. This is a battle that's just settled. 9-5 Sim Sports making their way past Cool Drive, or at least attempting to. Holding the outside on the exit of the chase gives you the inside for Murray's. And that will result in potentially move completed there. Yeah, the Cool Drive car just got on the brakes early and decided to let them have it, but it does keep going. Bit of a switchback there from the blue Mercedes. And we're hearing there's another switchback coming too. So 9-5 gets a very nice run around the outside of the corner. You see that the HTS Mercedes behind them is looking to take advantage of this one too. So it's inside line there for 9-5 Sim Sport, and I get the feeling that is where the battle settled. All right, so
GT4, Kyle Ridley had that slide. Sorry. Lost the spot back again to Josh Perween. Now Jared Knight, yeah, that was the slide. Perween gets through. Jared Knight in HTS Racing yellow Mercedes also arrives on the scene. So what is the top of GT4 goes Aston Martin, McLaren, Porsche, BMW, Mercedes.
That is a great stat there. 5 different manufacturers in the top 5. The GT4 class has certainly been the true entertainment class, I think, of the day. There's been great racing in GT3, obviously, but I love the variety of makes that everyone's gone for in GT4, and everyone has been able to take maximum advantage of their car's benefits. This resulted in a very entertaining race in the lower class. And we're hearing the contact between the 262 and the 10 that we saw earlier has resulted in a penalty for Hayden Veld. 10 seconds stopped in the pits. that's when they take their next service. Oh, hello. This is looking interesting. Porsche GT4 once again. That's the full Sen 770. They've been involved in a few GT3 battles today, haven't they? So is the Race on Oz GT4 there as well. That resulted in a big compression. It looks to me like in the midst of all of that, Rhys Gasol made his way past Dylan McAuliffe.
Yeah, 7th at the moment, that ERT 261. Behind their teammate 260, just as we've heard word of penalty for the 262. Got a GT4 2020 balance of performance sheet in front of me, Rhys. What do you think was the power bop for the BMW M4 GT4 at the 2020 round of the GT4 European Series at Nürburgring?
Minus 10%.
Red USB stick ECU Map 3 BOP 2020.
Okay.
So
Righto.
yeah, the GT4s have all got the engine control software, and for some of the turbos, rather than being different physical restrictor plates, the governing body has different coloured USB sticks that they plug into the engine control software.
Right, and I'm assuming red is like maximum.
Well, I don't know. Your options look like red, green.
Is green plus?
I think it's almost deliberate that it's not clear.
Yeah, seems like it. Oh, God. Always interesting, isn't it? Hearing about how balance of performance is done in the real world. It'd be nice if it was just a number percentage kind of balance of performance deal like they do in sim racing. It would make things a lot easier to understand for the fans.
I've seen the big charts of what boost pressure you're allowed on the turbo GT3s depending on your RPM, etc., etc.
We're hearing this is the easiest overtake of the day. John Peacenik, Rhys Gasol is in the car at the moment.
Gets up behind his teammate, and his teammate reads his contract and pulls over.
Seems that way. Well, looks like the pace is certainly with the 261 right now, so they're going to continue fighting their way forward. They're just coming up to the Veteran Gaming Australia green Mercedes GT4, and that'll be an easy as you like pass. Meanwhile, it's a battle of the Porsches between Luke Rosella and Marino Morella. This is looks like Rosella made the move for 9th place earlier in the lap, and in fact it happened at the elbow. Rosella versus Morella, and Jay is right, it is fun to say. Very big dive at the elbow. Seems to be a popular passing spot if you're driving a rear-engine German sports car.
Which is the dream. Here's a change to get to the inside of the GT4 at the braking zone of Murray's Corner. One of the Veteran Gaming Australia cars trying to stay out of the way there, and in doing so just offering up the inside line. Typically the nicer way to do it.
Yeah, typically. Meanwhile, the Summit Sim Sports car has just made their way past Rogue Sim Sports. That is a trade for 18th place in the GT3 class. And that looked very nicely done from Liam Reston, who I think is gaining a bit of a reputation as a sender. Speaking of sending, might be one here from HTS on SLM. This is providing a good advantage for Slipstream Autosport. They're jetting away from this fight as the BMW is coming under pressure from the Mercedes.
There is plenty of attitude in that BMW M4 GT4 at the moment as well. The tail hanging out, looking like it's kind of moving around on the rear tyres like a Trans Am car does. And so, sure, you get that straight line speed in the BMW, nice turbo 6-cylinder, seamless gear shifts as well as you go up through the gearbox, but the rear tyres look like they reach a point where they begin to complain. The Nürburgring round of the 2020 GT4 European Series, the BMW M4 GT4 weighed 1,460 kilograms.
Yeah, okay. Wondering if that is similar to this race, as we've seen another problem for Vermilion 65. Curtis Bird at the wheel of that one. Problem at the cutting. Fortunately, a bit of a gap that he can get into, and flicks it around a little further to stay out of the wall. How did that happen for him? So he was on his own here coming into the cutting, and I get the feeling he just lost it on the brakes. Oh, it was at the turn in. May have gotten a little bit on the marbles. He seemed a bit wide there.
It was hot and then deep, and then he was wide of the apex because of it.
Yeah, righto.
Have to avoid.
Yeah, had to do a bit of a parallel parking move there.
And then rather than just run straight into the wall, he turned in and lost the rear and spun rather than going straight on.
Fair enough. Well, Marino Morella has been left behind by Luke Rosella, and they're coming under pressure here for 9th place from Rapid Team Rensport. Dylan McAuliffe has been putting on some great drives in that Ferrari. Not much he can do coming out of Griffins, though, and this is the part of the track where the Porsche is the strongest. The Ferrari, it seems, is a nice all-rounder. Got good speed down Conrad, is able to keep up across the top of the mountain. The Porsche, meanwhile, has a bit less straight-line speed, but through the corners, it looks magnificent.
And the brakes and the transition from braking to turn-in.
So we're going to be showing something here, Jay is saying, looking at the timing stuff. Look at the gap between the two leaders there. And have a look at this. This is the live timing on grip.com, pinned in the broadcast chat. That is the live gap. You see that it's coming down a little bit. There's a little bit of ebb and flow, but I love seeing stats like that. It was very static for quite some time, but then seems like there's been a bit of a nice run from WSR Esports butt kicker.
GT4 is the place you want to look at the moment, with Slipstream under pressure from SLM, and then HTS will dive to pit entry to get away from all of this carnage.
Yeah, potential carnage at the very least. Looks like the BMW has gained a little bit on the Porsche. Potentially the GT3's coming through on them might have had something to do with that. So the HTS car in the lane now.
Tactical. They'll get to the end from here. That's the strategy. They've seen that window open. They've gone, all right, let's get our stop done. And then maybe others will have to pit with the next safety car. Depending on where they're caught, where the safety car is, we won't have to. We might get some track position in a safety car between now and the end. And if not, hopefully you get some clean air, and you hope that these two battle, and you're looking at a podium.
Yeah, that's what HTS will be hoping for. Jared Knight remaining in the car. So I don't think there'll be any more driver swaps from that one. Wayne Glue was doing most of the laps in the car after we signed off earlier today.
The other cool thing you can do with the live timing when you look at grip.com is you can put in, your team car, whatever, look at some of the charts. Like in an endurance race like this, the position that some of these cars have been, up front, down to 30th place, working their way back up to the lead, back to 20th, back up towards the lead. It's a real sawtooth on the graph of the lap charts, and you can look at all of that stuff live while the race unfolds.
Yeah, really is fantastic. Big thanks to grip.com for providing us with live timing for this. You can see it right there. That is amazing.
Out, Jay. Click the zooming out, because WSR Esports, the second place GT3, obviously they started right up front at the front of the field in GT3. We're involved in that turn 1 incident. That's the line dropping all the way down to 30th, 33rd in class. They've worked their way back up across the next 2-3 hours through the pit stop cycle. All the other stuff, it's been up and down a little bit, but it shows their drop from the front of the field and their work to get back into second place and in contention for the win of this race.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Love that kind of data. It's fantastic. Once again, yeah, live timing pinned at the top of the broadcast chat if you want to check that out and follow along with the race and maybe get some of the stats that we don't quite have access to up here in the commentary box. Battle going on here, meanwhile, the number 13 team VRT. This is for 11th place. They've got Thomas Hinz in the Team Jinx Shifters 52, and Hayden Sell, who's taken over the 9.5 SimSport 951 and has for quite some time. Hayden has been in the car from lap 225, so I'm wondering if there's going to be one more driver change for 951 towards the end of the race. We will have to wait and see.
With a little bit of that GT4 traffic to come across the top of the mountain, they're on the back of the SLM BMW and working their way through there. Other cars will still have to wait to do it. Which side of the road do they try to go to? To the inside, putting the BMW all the way.
Oh!
It's been sent over the wall into the Shadow Realm.
Oh,
and that's a disaster for SLM.
Absolute disaster, and more for 9.5. The Cool Drive Racing Mercedes has just T-boned them at the top of the mountain.
Top in the run as well.
This is a safety car for sure.
Neither of those cars are going anywhere, and in fact, it should be just for the SLM car going into orbit over the fence.
Goodness gracious me. Guy Leach was at the wheel of the Cool Drive Mercedes there, and he would have gotten very little warning that Hayden Sell was stopped in the middle of the track there. It's completely blind. The concrete walls block your view until you're practically at corner exit.
So this looks almost guaranteed to be a safety car at a time that will light up the pit lane for the GT3 competitors approaching the top of 1 hour to go. They can make what they hope to be their very, very final pit stop. All of this starting as those GT3 cars were going past SLM's GT4, and 9.5 were on the inside with SLM on the outside, and the two of them have come together at Sulman Park.
Safety car called. No surprise there. The 9.5 car is technically off the racing surface right now in the runoff area here. You'll see the overall race leader come up on them, but Guy Leach is still on the circuit. It looks like he has been able to move forward a little bit, but it's still going to be a big ask for that car to make its way back to the lane.
So there's a couple of GT3 cars far enough back that they've been able to hit the lane. You see them up there, Orbit DBM, Evolution Racing 262, and also from GT4, Veteran Gaming Australia's 254. Most of the other cars haven't come by pit entry, but you imagine it's going to be very, very popular. This is what's kicked it off.
Right, so Hayden Sell attempting to follow through there, but I mean, there's less mechanical grip in the GT4. They have to use the full line into the corner, and then here comes Guy Leach. Massive. Looked like a bit of a lucky escape there for the HTS Mercedes. Looks like they did lose their bumper, but that could have been a lot worse for them.
Yeah, that's no good. Pit lane has your race leader, has second place, has third, has fourth. I don't see why you wouldn't stop now in almost any situation.
Yeah.
This is the first real opportunity to fill the tank, put your final driver in, and give him a good rev up.
Yeah, absolutely. Stints last about an hour in GT3 cars, and that is at full tilt the whole way. They're going to have a few more laps behind safety car to save some fuel, so I would expect that everyone who's pitting right now will be able to make it to the end with very little issue.
Predictor saying 29 laps to go, we'll lose 1 or 2 to the safety car there as well. Okay, all right, here you have Eclipse not lapping as quickly as they'd like behind this safety car at the moment, as they're behind Lame Sheep BMW. TTR and others were definitely going to be able to catch Eclipse regardless with this safety car, though, you would think. Who in GT4 still needs to stop? Eclipse, Trans-Tasman Racing, Slipstream Autosports, Pulse Tuning, Toyota, Echuca have already made their final stop. We saw HTS Racing Yellow get out of the way and make their final stop just a couple of laps ago. So maybe this helps them a little bit.
Yeah, potentially does. The only other car, aside from the ones you mentioned, that has yet to come in is the Race Honours number 16, and that's out of contention.
The car HTS Racing Yellow was really racing was SLM Pink, and now that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's a complete non-issue now. The SLM car sent into the Shadow Realm thanks to the move up the inside by Hayden Sell at this very corner. And it's a difficult thing to do, isn't it? To negotiate traffic across the top of the mountain, as well as be the traffic being negotiated. Like I mentioned, the GT4 cars, they don't have anywhere near as much grip through the corners as the GT3s do. Not as wide of a track, not as sophisticated suspension, less grippy tires as well. And we already talked about how much trouble the BMW tends to have through the corners. So I wouldn't blame the SLM BMW at all for trying to turn towards the inside. The only thing greeting you if you run wide at that part of the circuit is the concrete wall.
Most GT4s are on 245 width tires as well, and the GT3s are like 325s. I thought some of them up to 360. You get much wider tires on a GT3 as well. That's what the extra width and guards are covering.
So Summit 55 on board here, coming into the pits. Going on the brakes a little early on the way in, but as soon as they slow down for the lane, big bump to the rear of the Ferrari ahead. And I think that might have resulted in potentially a pit lane penalty for either or both of them. The only black flag I'm seeing at the moment is for the FPS Evolved driving number 10 with Bailey Stephen at the wheel. We have mechanical black flag, obviously, for 95 SimSport 951 and the Cool Drive Racing 46 entry. They will have their tow requests granted very shortly, I'm sure. Well, actually, they already have about a minute ago. I really should look at the production feed when I'm saying stuff like that. But hopefully we see both of those cars back out on the circuit before the race ends. If either of them have already used their fast repair, though, it's going to be difficult to get those cars repaired in time. It looks like they both already used the fast repairs, so they better hope that they have some good virtual garage crews on those cars. Otherwise, we're not going to be seeing any more of them in the last hour of this race.
So a couple of cars that have not stopped yet. Second in GT3, Rogue SimSport, no final stop just yet. Summit had just come in. Here comes some wave around. The 862 GBM Beyond Blue still needs one more stop. So does the Vermilion Motorsport 65. These are some of the cars, though, that obviously have stayed out, hoping to get a wave around shortly. Some of them that are off the lead lap. Rogue obviously aren't going to get waved around. They were probably hoping that Eclipse pitting would see them in front of Eclipse or something, but second for position, but still needing a pit stop, the Rogue Porsche here.
And speaking of pit stops in GT4, Slipstream Autosport has just come in. Josh Perween at the wheel of that car still. I'm not seeing any trace of a driver change yet, so assuming that Perween is going to stay in the car to the end. The Eclipse SimSports GT4s just made their way past them. So let's see how long this pit stop takes. It's round about anywhere from 37 to 45 seconds for a pit stop in the GT4s. Trans-Tasman Racing has just gone by them as well. Back to third in class as Perween gets off the jacks and is now away. So still on in GT4. Could well be a three-way battle between three very skilled teams.
So you'd be pretty confident in saying you're looking at the drivers to the end for these teams. Dylan Burse in the Eclipse Sim Sports 5-6. Daniel Ferguson in WSR Esports Butt Kicker. John Merritt in Pulse Echuca Toyota. Luke Rosella in Blackout OPR. And Reese Gasul in the Evolution Racing Team 261. He's leading the way now. This time 24 hours ago, he made just a little bit of a flub of the shootout, didn't start up front, started from 15th on the grid, worked their way forward with undeniably one of the fastest cars, fastest driving combinations, fastest teams. And when this one gets underway, Dylan Burse will be the one to lead the field to the restart within the final hour.
Yeah, so here we are at almost the very end. 11 hours of racing have been completed. 52.5 minutes to go right now. And I'm looking forward to this battle between Eclipse and WSR. It's something that's been building for the whole race, you know. A battle that arguably should have been a thing all race long. But of course, WSR, we saw it on the graph earlier, you know, just a couple of laps into the race, they dropped all the way down, and they've been fighting their way back up ever since. Now is the opportunity. Daniel Ferguson needs to make sure he's got his head screwed on, because he will be chasing down Dylan Burse, who is, I think, undeniably the quickest driver in the field. Remember in qualifying yesterday, Burse was half a second ahead over one lap over everyone else.
There's the Rogue Porsche hitting the pit lane. Not sure why they waited till when they did, but again, there's still some teams trying to clear all of their puzzle pieces around minimum, maximum drive times.
Yeah, potentially Rogue had just a few numbers they were checking in the background. Lights no longer flashing on the safety car as the wave rounds have been completed. The last car in the line is Bailey Stephen in the FPS Evolve driving entry. We've got the Whipperman Racing Porsche up ahead of them, and our top three in GT4 are a little split. The top two are together, but you see Josh Perween there? He has got two GT3s in between him and his class compatriots. Of course, Liam Reston and Cameron Dance, those two GT3 drivers in question, should be able to clear the top two in short order once we get back to racing, but that'll be an extra few car lengths that Perween will have to deal with. Bailey Stephen, it looks like, taking one final pit stop there. Add a little bit of extra fuel to the car, you might as well, if you're at the back of the train. Now, David, we gear up for another restart within 50 minutes remaining of the race. Will we see another safety car before the race concludes?
I don't want to think about it much.
Me either, to be completely honest. I don't want to speak it.
I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not either. But you know, if we make a prediction, then we might very well manifest the opposite. Let's just see what happens as the waiver rounds are completed for the last couple of GT4 cars. Looked like the Jared Knight in the HTS racing car, Veteran Gaming Australia, Green, Lame Sheep, and Full Send all making their way past. So I'm going to revise my call from just a few moments ago and say that we'll be going green next lap. Current safety car count, I believe this is the 17th or the 16th? Okay, so confirmation from Director Jay Kennedy, who's usually on top of the numbers. It is 16 or 17. Jay can't read his own handwriting, apparently. Should have been a doctor.
So, just a very, very few cars that haven't made what we would expect to be their final stop of the race. I'm looking at the number 65 Vermilion Motorsports car. It's 16th in GT3 at the moment, so pretty bang in the middle of the 34 class field. Although a little further down, as I think we're down to about 26-ish still running. And then GT4, they've all made their stops. So it's a fight to the end. Trans-Tasman Racing no longer too far off the back of Eclipse Sim Sports GT4.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the matchup at the top of GT4. Jake Burton versus Kobe Williams.
When the safety car pulls away, it'll be Eclipse leading GT3 and Eclipse leading GT4 for a total eclipse of the start.
Oh, God. There we go. There we go. There it is.
Nothing I can do.
Yeah, I know. It's just instinctive with you, isn't it? It's a primal urge within you, Mr. Haynes.
Yeah, I'm living in a powder keg and giving off a spark.
Oh, stop it.
Got to be careful of that closed pit exit there. Race on Oz. I think you're all good when you're behind that, what's normally, I think, called the SC2 or safety car 2 line, or indeed the big blue cone of judgment.
Yes, yeah, that's the main thing in iRacing, isn't it? You see the blue cone there. That's officially the where the blend line is to get back onto the racetrack, and it looks like they are within the margins there. Very good indeed.
The minimum outlap, inlap stuff in Formula One is they measure from pit exit to pit entry, which is safety car line 1 to 2 or 2 to 1 or something like that. So it's commonly used as sort of the point of timing where you say the pit exit has joined the racetrack.
Then we'll see if anyone falls afoul of that at any point in the next 45 minutes. We should be getting green around 44 to go, I'd imagine. Still not over for the top 3 in GT3 as well. I mean, Pulsachuka Toyota's sitting there in 3rd spot right now, but they've got 2 ridiculously quick Porsches behind them. Luke Rosella in the Blackout OPR entry, and Reese Gasol in Evolution Racing Team 261, the car that started on pole position. This is going to be a great final stint of the OSR Bathurst 12-hour. If you're sitting there at home, make sure that you've got a brew handy. Crack open a can, sit back, and enjoy the show. Not you, Jay. You got a job to do. All of us up here have. I've been tempted to get one of my Great Northerns out of the fridge, but it's poor form to be drinking alco while you're commentating. Jay has just said do it, so I don't know, David. I might take this opportunity down Conrod Straight to maybe grab one.
Lubricate.
Yep, all right.
There goes
Lubricate.
the safety car, so the race leader has to hold 80 to 85 kilometers an hour at this point with the field single file behind them. Your top 10 as we head to the restart inside of 45 minutes to go in 2024's OSR Bathurst 12-hour on iRacing. Eclipse Sim Sports from WSR Esports Butt Kicker. Pulse Achuca Toyota, the best running Ferrari at the moment, then some Porsches from Blackout OPR and Evolution Racing Team. Altus Australia, Rapid Team Rennsport, Vermilion Motorsports, and Alpha Venturi Racing, your top 10 in GT3. Eclipse, Trans-Tasman, and Slipstream, your top 3 in GT4 at the moment. The outright leader holding them, the pace car about to hit pit lane and put all of the decision-making in the hands of Dylan Burse.
And right on cue. There we go. Let's go, everybody.
The great cracking sound that opening a can makes is because it's a 2-part lever, one before you break the pressure and one after. But there's a lot of pressure here yet to be uncorked.
Oh, so much. Let's see how it goes here. Eclipse Sim Sports leading the way, and this time they're leaving it a bit later than they usually do on the safety car restart. Dylan Burst leads them away. Green flag flies, and we are back to racing with 43 minutes remaining in the OSR Bathurst 12-hour. Look at the battle for second. That was a perfectly executed start there by Luke Rosella, and he tries up the inside of the Pulsar Chuka Toyota entry. John Merritt had to back out of turning to the inside there.
Now Merritt's got a super difficult decision. Do I follow the slipstream of second place, or do I stay driver's right to defend the inside of Griffin's Bend? And you know what? He wants that inside to turn number 2 on this restart. So defendable if you just hold the high ground, and it's over. So the GT3 field worked their way through there. In GT4, nothing to separate first and second in this class. Jake Burton's been the quickest in the TTR McLaren. He's got a lot of work to do.
There goes Luke Rosella, passing John Merritt at the cutting, and now Reece Gasoul smells blood in the ERT 261 entry.
Porsche's looking good off the restart. John Merritt from that third place starting to drop back a little bit, not able to defend it. Everyone, this is their first flying lap on a new set of tyres. What's the temperature like? Potentially not optimal. The track's down to 34 Celsius, so a little middle of the road. Not cool, but not as sweltering as it was earlier on. That's 12 hours for you, from sunrise through the heat of the day, deep into the afternoon.
34 degrees Celsius track temperature. Things are cooling down nicely, and the tyres should be feeling pretty good by the time they get to the start-finish line. It seems like John Merritt doesn't really have a response to Luke Rosella there as he gives chase to the top 2. Daniel Ferguson, meanwhile, he is watching Dylan Burst scream into the distance. Eclipse Sim Sports have been the class of the field all race long. Include Saturday in that as well. That number 56 Audi has been nothing short of dominant in this race. Let's see then what John Merritt can do to keep Reece Gasoul behind. Fell back a little bit on Conrod Straight. That's expected. The Porsche doesn't have a great straight line speed. But wait until they get to the top of the mountain. See how close Gasoul can get. We've seen Porsches before fling one up the inside at Forest Elbow. I don't think we've seen the 261 do that just yet.
I don't think the GT3 traffic's been entirely helpful to second place in GT4. Now there's no cars in between, but there are a few that kind of got in the way of Jake Burton and were a little more respectful to Kobe Williams, the few that you see out the front here. And then, hey, not too far back to third in that class either, Perween in the slipstream. Porsche came in. Carl Ridley's back on the lane for another time. That car might have some dramas.
Race control decision, meanwhile, and this might cause some controversy. There's been a penalty assigned for that incident between 9.5 and SLM Motorsports Pink. The SLM car was the one that got sent off the track, and they're the ones that have been given the black flag. So let that sink in for a few moments as John Merritt tries to stay in touch here with Luke Rosella down through the S's. Seems like Rosella was opportunistic on the move at the cutting, but he hasn't quite been able to get the gap over Merritt that he wanted.
Just had oodles and oodles of grip initially on that restart that Merritt just couldn't seem to find in the Ferrari, but has maybe picked up now, looking a little bit better. How about an investigation for car 72, the GT4 leader for the race restart? Remember that there can be no overlapping between any cars on the restart until the apex of the final corner. If they got a good launch and they were alongside someone before that point, that is a possible breach on the restart. I'm trying to think what else could be under investigation.
It's the opposite. I think they left too much of a gap to the cars at the head. Kobe Williams left a lot of space to the cars ahead of him. See that? Supposed to be 5 car lengths max. That looks like more than 5 car lengths to me.
Guess you got to know how much there was, because it's GT3s in front of him, obviously. You've got to know how much gap there was when the leader started going, because if the leader goes early, of course it's going to string out a gap in front of a GT4 before you get to the final corner. I'm sure they'll have a good look at it.
So it could be drama coming for Eclipse Sim Sports for at least one of their teams. They've been the dominant cars in both classes today. The Aston Martin's been looking super quick, but potentially a rule breach could take them out of contention. We'll have to wait for a decision from race control on that. But if there is a penalty assigned, Trans-Tasman Racing sit in the box seat to win the Bathurst 12 Hour from pole in the GT4 class.
Up Mountain Straight, first, second, and third starting to just drop a couple further car lengths back in GT4. Glencedo Riddle in the Pulse Tuning Toyota Rachuka is fourth, but sort of 6 seconds back off these leaders. Got to be in it at the end, though, and there's certainly been some other cars that have maybe looked a bit quicker than the BMW from Pulse Tuning, but here they are at the end, ahead of SLM, ahead of HTS, ahead of LP Racing, and any of the others that might have been quicker than them at points, but not ahead of them here in the final hour.
So regarding the SLM BMW, there's been some clarification given by Andrew Proctor, who's part of the SLM team. The black flag was due to not requesting to tow, but then I would argue they didn't really have a choice in the matter. Did they? I mean, did they go over the fence and were automatically kicked back to the pits, or? Yeah, they were automatically kicked back to the pits. So, right, okay. So potentially there's a further layer to that. They would have gone back onto the track without asking permission from race control first. That's potentially what the black flag was for. All right, here we go then. Pit lane for Hayden Veld in the ERT 262. Is this a black flag? I'm not seeing one for that car.
Nope, neither. They're heading for their pit box.
Okay. So this may be a driver swap to just make sure that they're in line with the requirements for minimum and maximum driver time. Matthew Bowler getting into the car as Vermilion Motorsports gets sent wide at Griffin's Bend and could fall outside of the top 10 here. Zach Rattray White back in the car. That looked like a bit of contact with the Rapid Team Rennsport machine.
Yep, who had the inside at Griffin's Bend, the only line you want to have. How did they get there? By defending it from the inside. There's Zach Rattray White looking around the outside. Lot of speed, nose ahead, trying to turn in, but nope, there is not space for a second needle in that groove. You're only playing one track of this.
Yeah, it's one lane fits all at the
it's a bit more than 76
RPM
though, Reese.
Yeah, just a little bit. Well, here we go then, looking at the Porsche 261 of Evolution Racing Teams, still trying to get some kind of advantage over Pulsar Chuka Toyota to get into the top 4. Blackout OPR with Luke Rosella at the wheel, starting to make tracks on the WSR Esports Audi in second. Looking like some fantastic times from Rosella. He set a 203.9 on the previous lap, 204.23 for WSR Esports. And here's the thing, Luke Rosella only 0.2 off the pace of the leader as into the pits comes ERT 261. This could potentially be a driver swap.
Yeah, Reese Gasoul in now. So have they mismanaged some of their driver timing, some of their laps, some of their swaps in a couple of these ERT cars? You would have wanted to go to the end, but obviously 262 can't, the 261 can't, and they're out of this battle, and fingers crossed, praying desperately for another safety car. Otherwise, they are well out of this.
Gasoul only stopped for half a second. Splash and dash, maybe? They might not have had enough fuel to get to the end? Surely they would have.
Gotta be something else going on there that I'm sure someone will tell us.
Did they come in and use their fast repair, Jay says? You know what? That might not be a bad call. Didn't even go up on the jacks, so yeah, might be a fast repair. The clue for a car refueling is if it goes up on the jacks, because these GT3s, they run to IMSA rules. which means fuel and tyres are done at the same time. The car will go up on the jacks whether or not tyres are being changed.
261 hit the wall at Forrest's elbow, had to use the quick repair, says Brenton O'Brien.
Okay, there we go. So, that's heartbreaking for them. If there isn't another safety car, they are well and truly out of this race.
The 262 was what we thought as we saw the driver swap. It was about the driver lap number. So we've seen two different issues in sort of 2 laps for some of the front running cars.
And guess which wall was hit? Right here. See that where it juts out? Clip there for Reece Gasol, just turned in a bit too early, a little bit too tight to the inside of the corner, and that was enough to alter the handling of the car such that they needed to come in and get the quick repair. I mean, good on them for saving that quick repair until the last 40 minutes of the race.
And now the 260?
Yeah, so Brenton O'Brien also said that the other two had to get driver lap numbers sorted. I think what he means by that is the other 2 ERT cars, so both Mercedes in this case.
That takes all 3 of those cars sort of out of contention for the moment, the way that we see the lay of the race for everyone else in GT3 going to the end. Although race control are going to have to be on top of everyone else's, maximum, minimum, etc. times as well. There could be a few other cars close to falling afoul of that.
Meanwhile, the GT4 battle, that it is, isn't it? It's down to half a second here between Kobe Williams and Jake Burton, and at the moment, it looks like Burton's the more comfortable one right now. He's the one chasing. He's the one following the Aston around the track. They're in an ERT sandwich right now with the 2 Mercedes having made their pit stops to satisfy the driver time requirements. Again, big shame for Evolution Racing Team. They had all 3 cars potentially in top 5 contention just a couple of hours ago, and now it's all come to naught for them. But Trans-Tasman Racing still has something to race for here in the GT4 class. Remember, the number 72 still under investigation by race control, I think, for potential start infringement. So we'll see what happens there as a bit of GT3 traffic is going to split up this battle. Jake Burton flashing the lights there. Don't think he was too happy with that.
I was about to say, do you speak Burton? I think I know how that translates. Now right up behind the race leader, Kobe Williams. He's not going to give him anything for free here either.
No way.
To Matthew Bowler.
Oh, check this out. The pressure is on here. Got a GT3 ranging up behind you, wanting to try and find a way past at any opportunity. But if you're Kobe Williams, you cannot afford to break. You still have a race win in your hands.
The McLaren's the better GT4 in the straight line, but the Aston Martin's clearly got a couple of other things working for it. So what you don't want to do is give away your margin across the top of the mountain. Being bullied by GT3s, you want to keep that about 1 second over the McLaren as you get onto Conrod Straight. Down the end of it here for Kobe Williams, 255 k's an hour or so. Not bad.
And vaulting over the curbs at the chase for good measure. He'll be hoping that that gives him a little bit of an extra margin over Jake Burton. So that's the status of the GT4 lead right now. GT3 second place is absolutely locked in right now. It's pretty much exactly the same pace from Rosella and Ferguson. Here's the Pie Floaters car getting passed at turn 1 by the drop bearing Cosi entry. And we check in on Luke Rosella and Daniel Ferguson. Check this out. Their lap times, 204.495 for Daniel Ferguson, 204.511 for Luke Rosella. There is nothing in it between these two, but Rosella has the slipstream, which in the Porsche is crucial.
It'll keep him close down Conrod Straight, that's for sure. Is to seeing the white and fuchsia of Eclipse Sim Sports just getting a little smaller ahead of them, though, inside of the final half hour. No random safety cars here. Oh. They nearly got me with that.
Yeah. Nearly got me too. I flicked over like, hang on a minute.
Oh, like Brenton O'Brien can't explain this one for us.
Let's see what the exit is like from turn 1. Looks like Daniel Ferguson had a tiny bit better drive off the front there. That's the gap for the lead right now. Over the rise on Mountain Straight comes Dylan Burse. He enjoyed a lead of 3.7 seconds at the line. Breaking news coming in, car 28. Oh no, that's the Vermilion Motorsports entry. Zach Rattray White, and I think James Scott as well, exceeding driver max laps. Right at the end of the race, we're seeing multiple teams fall afoul of that regulation. For ERT, they managed to pit and get that sorted, but Vermilion Motorsports didn't have the same luck.
ERT swallow the medicine, which had a bitter taste, but it's so much better than if you don't and you end up in this situation like Vermilion.
Oh no. Still under investigation, but it's almost confirmed is the news that we are receiving right now. Keep an eye though on the battle for second here. That's the rear view from Daniel Ferguson. Luke Rosella ranging up on him. The entry into the elbow is where we've seen the Porsches be strongest, and you see how little of a margin Luke Rosella is leaving. He's got this dialed in right now.
You want to be just one car length closer though, just to be right up in that slipstream, so that when it comes to the braking zone where the Porsche can be strong, you can get alongside, maybe get to the inside of these corners. As it sits, Daniel Ferguson's not going to leave anything in the margin for braking of the Audi, so you need to be a little closer than that. What's the news from race control right now? I think that's confirmation on the 28.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, no, it's still not confirmed yet. We might have jumped the gun a little bit on that. We'll see.
Suddenly a couple of lapped GT4s for your GT3 leader, and this battle 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th.
So here we go, yeah. Under review for exceeding driver max laps. So we'll wait and see
And
whether or not there is a penalty.
John Merritt's car in 4th, also then under review.
Yeah. Pulsar Chuka Toyota. It'll be for exceeding 40% of the race distance with a single driver. John Merritt has been in that car for quite some time.
So a lot, obviously, still to happen between here and the checkered flag. John Merritt's primary concern right now is the GT4 from Lame Sheep Racing. Ooh. Yep, not a lot of grip offline there when you're a GT4 with no downforce.
So anyone who's done 114 laps has done too many so far. And John Merritt is currently on 119.
Zach Rattray White is currently on 125.
Okay, so I think we can almost confirm it at this stage.
Well,
the
if he got
28 and
out of the
64.
car now, and somehow the leader managed to squeeze in 100 laps, his average would be good, but that's not happening between now and the end at this pace. 12 more laps for the leader. So I don't see how the average comes back in line for Zach Rattray White.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think we'll have to wait for official word from race control for that. Because we can go on about what the rules say, but at the end of the day, if there's no statement from race control, then there's really nothing to say, is there?
Emily Jones got up to 109 laps in the Trans-Tasman Racing GT4. But obviously isn't going to drive again as Jake Burton logs more laps in pursuit of victory there. And this we were talking about, they ended up in a good place after that last safety car for Pulse Tuning Ashoka Toyota Beige. HTS Yellow and Jared Knight are closing in on them for 4th place here. Mercedes hunting the BMW.
Absolutely. This is another excellent battle in the GT4 category. It's been entertaining tonight. Now that the gap for the lead in GT4 has calmed down a bit, this is where the battle truly is. Josh Perween in the Slipstream Autosport car is a distant third. He's got a long gap ahead, a long gap behind. Jake Burton and Kobe Williams at the front of the GT4 field here. And then you have to go all the way back to the entry of the chase to see Josh Perween making his way through. Still in contention for a podium, but remains to be seen whether or not these two will be able to catch up. 2:14.4 on the last lap for Josh Perween. 2:14.2 for Glenn Riddell. And Jared Knight at 2:14.3. So they are looking quicker, but probably not by enough to really make the gap up in the last 23 minutes of this race. Have a look at the drive out of the corner from Jared Knight, though. That looked fantastic. And this is going to be a move up the inside into Hell Corner. And it seems like Glenn Riddell has decided, okay, mate, you can have that one.
Not seeing a whole lot of tyre grit left on that BMW as well. They do seem to struggle the longer we run into these stints. An interesting quirk of measuring the minimum and maximum drive times by laps, not minutes, is you can't soak drive time behind a safety car. And so that might be one of the things, is if you had one of your drivers and you're like, oh yeah, he'll drive from midday to 4 p.m, but that was a period of the race that had a lot of safety cars, then they don't eat up a whole lot of laps. And someone who's in the car while we're green flag racing ends up with a lot of laps counted. This is second and third as they caught a bit of GT4 traffic.
Oh my goodness. Oh, dearie me. That came at a very bad time for Luke Rosella. Look at the gap when they leave Forest Elbow, Jay is telling us. There was no way Luke Rosella could find his way past that GT4 until they got right here to the entry. So, looks to me like WSR Esports butt kicker are once again safe for the time being. I think Rosella's going to have to pull out all the stops if he wants to go at second. Rapidly approaching the final 20 minutes of the OSR Bathurst 12-hour. And Team Jinx shifters, number 52, Thomas Hinz at the wheel. This car has made its way into the top 10 after an up-and-down race. They're chasing down the Alpha Venturi Racing 919 that has had an up-and-down race as well, working their way past, I think, the very same GT4 traffic that Luke Rosella encountered earlier, the locked-on racing Mercedes with Tim Cornt at the wheel. I'm amazed to see that Summit Sim Sports have managed to find their way into the top 10 at the end of all this. Car stopped in the gravel trap at McPhillamy. That's the number 10 Audi. Not the first time we've seen that car, unfortunately, facing the wrong way.
Not too much damage that we can see. Tracks and witness marks don't say it hit the wall. But it's moving. It doesn't look great. It's moving. And this is how.
Okay, so up behind Reese Gasol in the ERT entry, and oh wow, I haven't seen that yet in the race.
So what, the car at the very front was wide and slow. Gasol slowed up and got driven into the back of because FPS were just completely blind up behind the other car there? Is it code 9 that was wide?
I think so, potentially. We'll have to wait and see here. Look at the run up to McPhillamy Park.
It's what the Ferrari does. The Ferrari hits the wall after the metal grate, is grinding along the wall. That checks up Reese Gasol, and then the car we're on board there with the Audi FPS.
Yeah, to tell you what, Gasol was lucky that he wasn't spun there. I think ERT got away with that. Look at the gap in the GT4 lead, though, by the way. Down to under 0.3 of a second. Jake Burton's got another great run here on Kobe Williams.
When the McLaren gets close, I think it's the car to have. When there's traffic and hot lapping, the Aston Martin seems to be the one to have. So right in the line here, okay, I need a different code book because that flash of the headlights means something else in Burtonese.
I think it means I'm coming to get ya.
That's just the opening couple of bars of the Jaws theme.
Yeah. So what, just 2 notes? All right, here we go. Look at how much Kobe Williams is pushing through the chase. A little bit of oversteer for the Aston Martin. But again, like I mentioned earlier, Burton in the chase position seems pretty comfortable. He's just dialing up the pressure, lap on lap here. It could come down to one of the closest finishes I've ever seen here. These drivers are so well matched. Burton does look like he has the edge, but I've seen Kobe Williams drive. I've raced on the same track as him, and I think it should be a point to say I haven't raced wheel to wheel with him. He's been so much faster. So keep an eye out for what's going to happen here as Burton goes for a look at Griffin's Bend, but Williams is still ahead, a little bit wide through the corner, but he keeps Burton behind for a corner more.
A millimetre closer, and I think that McLaren could have got down the inside. Burton really, really wanted it, but maybe realised he wasn't far enough alongside. And so the stage is absolutely set across the GT4s here. Still got 13 seconds to third place, so the amount of side-by-side battling I think we're going to need to see out of these two to bring anyone else into the picture for the GT4 victory boggles the mind a little bit. You've got two different cars, two different teams, two quite different drivers. And what's up the road from them here?
That's
the lane sheet BMW to get lapped.
Oh, this is going to be awkward. Oh, that's extremely awkward. All right, they both get through at the elbow, but man, I think the driver of that BMW was screaming as they both went past.
And look how close Burton is. This is the part of the track where the McLaren is strongest. Massive straight line speed for Trans-Tasman Racing's McLaren. The nose is in front, and I think he can pick his line through the chase here as well. You know Kobe Williams is going to be brave on the brake pedal, and he's got the inside for the left-hander here, and he might just hold on.
Oh, yep. Just parked it in front of Burton at corner exit. Nothing Jake could do to overcome that. He's going to have to wait for another opportunity. How about now at Murray's corner? And Kobe Williams was spooked, sent wide on the marbles. Trans-Tasman Racing leads GT4.
And here's their GT3 Eclipse cars side by side. One in the lead of GT3, one now relegated in the final stint of the race to second place in GT4.
There we go. Nothing that Dylan Burst can do from here to help out Kobe Williams. Is that the GT4 lead done? He's going to try something. Little bit of weaving. Just dupe Jake Burton into following him for a little bit of extra slipstream. Might cost him a tiny bit of time there. It's all psychological at the end of the day. Now Jake Burton has to transition to defending, because I would imagine Kobe Williams is going to be driving like he stole it to try and get that lead back.
You bet he is, as he drifts out of the cutting. Tail glances the wall, sliding around on top of those tyres, trying to stay in the slipstream. Not too much traffic in front or behind, and this should be the part of the lap, if any, where he's able to make up some of it in the Aston. Maybe down the mountain over the crest at Skyline.
Still looking good. Here comes second and third in GT3. Daniel Ferguson will have to wait, I think, until the entry to the elbow or the exit of the elbow. There's no way he's going to try and get himself too involved in the lead battle in GT4. Once again, Williams sliding the rear of the Aston Martin out of the corner. That was fantastic.
The Audi pulls back in, tows him up a little bit, potentially towards Jake Burton, but it's been a good lap since making that big dive into Murray's corner to put enough car length to not be right back under pressure and maybe look to build out a little bit of a race lead, and you end up with that half a second, 0.6, 0.7. It's a little window that the GT3 cars want to put themselves in between, and it protects, once you've got that half a second, that buffer can protect itself.
Yeah, I think Jake Burton might have just enough if he keeps this pace up. There's only 14.5 minutes left of racing here. It's going to be the longest 14 minutes of Jake Burton's year, I reckon. Unless something else happens later on in the year that's even higher stakes than this. And may very well be. For the time being, all Kobe Williams can do is flash the headlights and try and distract Burton.
That's a different code book. Here comes John Merritt. I need another one for that. And this is what I'm talking about. Just enough space that the GT3 cars pass one car, but they can't immediately dive bomb you.
Just enough of a space there for Pulsachuka Toyota to move in ahead.
Despite all this, in the 2-minute 13's last lap for our GT4 leaders, no one else in class matching that kind of pace at the moment. Fair to say that these two teams have been the strongest, most well-rounded in class.
I just want to sit back and watch this, really. You know, it's all well and good to be calling the action for all of you out there, but this is just so intriguing. These drivers are so well matched. The only way Jake Burton could really get by Kobe Williams was by having a dive and spooking him wide. Maybe Kobe Williams is about to do the same thing. He's still in the slipstream of the McLaren. The advantage is with the McLaren on a straight line. A little bit of extra slipstream for a GT3 as well in between them.
They both pull across here. Seen the McLaren also be decent enough on the brakes, particularly where Burton made that move this part of the lap a couple of laps ago.
It looks like Williams is perfectly content to stay behind for the time being. He's just waiting for that opportunity. Maybe he just needs to back off a bit, cool the tyres down, and then maybe he can have a lob, but we'll have to wait and see. The gap at the front has just kept extending. It's 7.1 seconds right now that Dylan Burst has over Daniel Ferguson, and Luke Rosella still within a second of Ferguson for second place. So there's still potential for Blackout OPR to get it here. Ever since Rosella had the gap opened by some GT4 traffic, he's been steadily closing that gap, lap on lap.
Seeing a lot more attitude from the Aston Martin GT4 as it gets
That's a good
pushed
run up the
towards
hill.
the limit. It slides a little.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, Burton. Oh, Burton almost spun that. That was well held by the Trans-Tasman Racing McLaren, but now Williams has to keep it tight into Reed Park for Dylan McAuliffe to make his way by. That's the 7th place GT3. They are close together again. Here comes Byron Pierce in the Alpha Venturi racing car. This is a very awkward spot. Up the inside of McPhillamy. Burton has to let him go. Does Pierce try it here at Skyline on Williams? He does. Oh, this is going to be difficult. Onto the grass.
Is that GT3 going to have to serve a slowdown somewhere, somehow here? Not what Burton's going to want to happen in front of him. It does put a little more space between himself and Kobe Williams, who's now back in the GT4 lead. Replay bottom of screen.
Oh boy, look at this from Burton. Holding it beautifully, but still, he had to make way for Kobe Williams on the inside, and that's increased the gap once again.
I think the more numbers you have after GT, the more exciting the racing is.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, this is fantastic.
Just like how exciting is a Ford GT40?
Oh yeah, true.
They're so close again. They're so close. They're side by side now. But it's on the outside for Jake Burton when he made the pass for the lead. Down the inside.
Oh, could this be a switchback? Oh, a little bit of a slide for Kobe Williams on the exit of Murray's. Burton might... Oh, I don't think he has the run into Hell Corner. He's going to pull out and give it a go anyway. Oh, they make contact. Kobe Williams off the circuit. Burton lets him have it. Gonna push him. All you can do is laugh. Right, David?
Oh my. They've traded the lead back and forth a couple of times. Different strengths for the Aston Martin and the McLaren. And two very, very determined drivers here. So at the moment, the place you want to be for the Aston Martin, but sometimes it does get a slide. It doesn't get traction off the corners particularly well.
Have a look at this on the replay.
For a different angle.
Yeah, so into the corner they come, and man, Burton did go a little bit too deep, didn't he? Made contact with Williams and sent him wide. and had to stay in line coming down Mountain Straight. Still super close here across the top of the mountain. Both of these teams have been fighting non-stop for 12 hours to get the race victory in their class. What a fight this is.
And here comes a three-way fight for position in GT3 behind them as well, with Orbit DBM ahead of HTS Racing Green and Evolution Racing Teams 261. And this is two drivers in GT4s that are not going to give any concessions to GT3 cars, and it'll stack up that pack as well inside the final 10 minutes at Mount Panorama.
All right, here we go. Conrod Straight. All three cars should be by the two GT4 leaders by the time they get to the chase. Here's hoping, at least. Look at that. Kobe Williams grabbing a little bit of slipstream off the Ferrari. He's looking for every advantage he possibly can. Burton side by side with the ERT 261 on the way in. They go on the inside. Burton has to go wide to let them through onto the grass. That was very awkward indeed. That's extended the gap out a little further. ERT 261 into the grass. Burton's going to have to fight even harder now to get back to that lead.
Too optimistic from Reece Gasol, and Jake Burton will not be happy about it at all. But he's back within a couple car lengths here now, though. So not too much harm done, but still so frustrating when you're having your own little battle here. But Reece Gasol is having his own little battle too. I'll steal someone else's phrase. I think that this is GT racing right here. I think that's what they want me to say.
I think so. This is magnificent. I am loving every second of this. And while all of this is going on, I'm still keeping an eye on the battle for second overall. WSR Esports butt kicker has to now deal with a 6/10 gap back to Blackout OPR. Luke Rosella has been chipping away bit by bit at that gap. And with under 7 minutes remaining, he's going to have a big old send if he wants to try and overcome Daniel Ferguson and company.
Fastest lap of the race to this point for Blackout OPR, a 203.9, last 204 flat, so only a tenth away from a personal best in that car. Still a second away from the outright fastest lap of the race. Not sure we're going to see conditions in the last 6.5 minutes here where Dylan Burse is going to be able to go even better than a 203.1, but that track continues to cool off, approaching 30 Celsius now. It's not quite the heat it once was, and they are all pushing so hard.
4 laps to go. 6 minutes on the clock. All comes down to this in the 5th running of the OSR Bathurst 12-hour. 204.1 for Daniel Ferguson, 203.9 for Luke Rosella. Rosella's got great pace, and I think if Dylan Burse wasn't backing off a bit now that he has this gap in the lead, I reckon he might have been in trouble from Blackout OPR if things had been a little different. But I think that's been the big strength of the Eclipse Sim Sports 56. At every single restart, they have been right on the pace from the very beginning. They've gotten the gap where it mattered, and they maintained it.
Yeah, they get that 1 second, that 2 seconds, that 3 seconds, then the ebb and flow of traffic doesn't matter. You've got enough buffer. When you're good, you're good. Here's a really opportunistic little move there from Blackout OPR on the GT4 traffic, sending it like you wouldn't early in the race, but going, this is my last chance. If I lose this slipstream here, my chance of second place is gone. And that SLM BMW is a little out of too much contention for their own positions. Battle for GT4 lead, bottom of your screen, with Whipperman racing between them at the moment.
That was a little bit of a slide on the exit of the elbow for Luke Rosella. Lost him the momentum where he needed it most. Daniel Ferguson, meanwhile, lovely straight exit. He stretches the gap out just a little down Conrod Straight. But Rosella's still close enough in the slipstream for him to get a slight benefit. Meanwhile, on the bottom of the screen, Jake Burton starting to claw back that time versus Kobe Williams for the GT4 lead.
It almost got out to a whole second there, but now it's down to nothing. I need the 3rd page of my Jake Burton code phrase book to know what that flash of the headlights means. I think it's good luck in the final 5 minutes here, mayhaps.
Potentially.
I think it's sort of 3/10 off this final corner here. Another little bit of a slide from Kobe Williams, and you know the pressure is always into the chase when you're in the Aston Martin up against a McLaren. Your exit from Forest Elbow's got to be perfect, and that pressure has maybe caused him to have a little bit of a slide a couple of times there, as he knows he needs to optimize that part of the track above all others.
So Jake Burton then good on the brakes, as we mentioned earlier, in the McLaren at the end of Conrod Straight. The chase is with him. Look at the drive he's got off the corner there. I think Kobe Williams is sensing he's in a bit of trouble, but GT3 traffic comes in again. 2 Ferraris, sending both of our GT4 leaders wide. Jake Burton goes back to the inside there.
Burton nearly had an over-under amongst 2 GT3 cars there, but it didn't quite play out. Kobe Williams holds on to this GT4 lead. Nothing between them out of Hell Corner.
Still that little bit of back and forth might have unsettled Kobe Williams just a tiny bit more. Jake Burton in the slipstream down Mountain Straight. Another GT4 up ahead of them. These guys are going to have to deal with traffic in the same class in just a few moments' time. That's the 770, the locked-on, the Full Send Motorsports Porsche that has been in the wars all day long. 3 laps down. One more GT3 here. Oh, contact, Jake Burton. That was Marcelo Rivera trying to get up the inside of the cutting, and the contact's continuing, and Jake Burton's been spun by Marcelo Rivera. Come on!
Absolutely not what we wanted to see in this final stage. Kobe Williams gets away. Jake Burton, some optimistic moves sent on him by GT3s deny us the best battle in the OSR Bathurst 12-hour for 2024.
That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen, honestly. I'd like to stay professional, but, I mean, look, okay, this move, sure, fine, whatever. You want to get up the inside, cool. But it's what happens next, right here. You know, I would think that Rivera would back out a little bit. I know that they're all racing for position, but come on, it's the battle for GT4. You don't want to interfere with another class's battle like that. I'm not happy, man.
No, I believe our outright leader has either taken the white flag or taking it next time. 2 to go. Okay, white flag at the end of this one for Eclipse Sim Sports and Dylan Burst, who lead the way. This is 2nd and 3rd here. Daniel Ferguson has sustained an immense amount of pressure from the blackout OPR Porsche for almost the last 45 minutes or so. It's been right there in his mirrors, and he's held firm in 2nd.
Yeah, certainly has. And, well, now it all comes down to Conrod Straight once more. We will see whether or not Rosella can find a way through here. Daniel Ferguson was blocked just a little bit by the GT4, but maintained the pace, maintained a little better by Luke Rosella. Here we go then. Is the slipstream enough for Rosella to have a lob? Down at the other end of the circuit, we have Dylan Burst about to take the white flag. It's probably too early for a dive from Rosella here. Still got a car length here, but he's going to try it. He's going to get a little closer. He's going to try and psych out the WSR Esports car. White flag in the air for Dylan Burst as Eclipse Sim Sports makes their way around. One more lap here at Mount Panorama.
Close to. There was 5 seconds left on the clock when Dylan Burst came around, and it sends us for one more lap. I wonder if anyone fueled a little bit short under the last safety car, and this might almost catch them out a little bit. Won't catch out the race leader by the looks of anything. 9 seconds almost their lead at this stage of the race. The car that's led the most laps, car that was top in qualifying, didn't take part in the shootout, but has fought oh so hard for the other 12 hours of the race.
Yeah, you can't take anything away from Eclipse Sim Sports here. They've driven well all race. They've been largely respectful of the GT4s, and they are going to come away with a very well-earned victory if they can hold on for just half a lap more.
2nd and 3rd just hit.
Oh, did
Ferguson
they?
got blocked in the traffic. Rosella drove up the back of him, but not in a way that he was able to pass.
Yeah, this is still, it's still on here for second place, isn't it? Daniel Ferguson has to nail the exit of Forest Elbow here. There's plenty of opportunities for Luke Rosella to pick up slipstream here if he gets the exit of the elbow right, or he could go for the dive at the elbow. Contact. Daniel Ferguson is shuffled out of the way, and Blackout OPR is in second. Is there going to be any fight back from WSR Esports butt kicker? Daniel Ferguson will have to have the best brakes in New South Wales to get by him here. Looking forward to seeing what the braking zone of the chase is like. Gently does it into the corner, but defensive from Luke Rosella. And I think that might just be enough. Last corner for Dylan Burse. Eclipse Sim Sport will win the OSR Bathurst 12-hour in 2024. Is there a last-ditch desperate dive from Daniel Ferguson? No, there is not. But he held on as long as he possibly could. Luke Rosella had to get the elbows out, but I think that's a well-earned second there from Blackout OPR. And halfway around the lap again, well, they could have been under a lot more pressure from Trans-Tasman Racing, but Eclipse Sim Sports on their way to taking the win in both classes today. A brilliantly driven race from Kobe Williams, from his teammates Caleb Hides and Eddie Beswick. Meanwhile, here's a quick replay of the contact between second and third in GT3. Oh, okay. So a little balked by the traffic, and that's what allowed Rosella to make up the gap. That was what made the difference in the end, as well as that move up the inside of the elbow. But here we go. Let's call the finish here, David. Kobe Williams about to bring this Aston Martin home.
Yep, being one of the strongest GT4 cars, you felt it was always going to be between them and TTR once LP Racing dropped out of this. Slipstream pretty strong at times. That Porsche just not delivering late on in the stint here. And that's why Eclipse Sim Sports GT4 will complete the whitewash for Eclipse Sim Sports of the OSR Bathurst 2024. It's a 100% totality eclipse of Mount Panorama.
And you want pain, take a look at this on screen. Trans-Tasman Racing, Jake Burton down into 6th place after the contact with Marcelo Rivera driving the Evolution Racing Team Mercedes. How would you be if you were in Jake Burton's shoes after fighting so hard all race long to have yourself taken out of the running for the win in the last couple of laps in a completely unnecessary maneuver?
Hose me down, I'd be salty, I'd be dirty, I'd be filthy.
Yeah, I would be too. But we have to congratulate our winners. Eclipse Sim Sport came here prepared. They came here ready to fight, and fight they did better than anyone else.
There you go. Double eclipse. Dylan Burse in GT3 taking the checkered flag and the victory. And Kobe Williams in their GT4 car. I think they've got a bit of a photo opportunity coming on the pit straight too, judged on what Dylan Burse was up to. And here comes Kobe Williams there. And I think fair to say both of them pushed all the way throughout the 12 hours by a very, very strong field, evidenced by that last lap move we saw there in GT3 between Blackout OPR and WSR Esports Bot Kicker, and other two really, really strong teams. And Luke Rosella, I think, with just one card in his deck that he was saving for that final lap. And yeah, it's a bit rough and tumble, but that is what you do on the last lap.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if any of us were in Luke Rosella's position, we would have done the same thing. You know about the advantages of your car in the corners. You know about the disadvantage down the straight. You want to try and be ahead and mess up the run of the car you're trying to pass. And that's exactly what he did. And crucially, both cars still were rolling. Here's a replay, meanwhile, of the exterior of the last lap. Coming up on the lame sheep BMW. And yeah, this is just a very inconvenient spot for a GT3 to come up. He did jump out of the way, but ultimately still had to slow up, did Ferguson. And that's what put Luke Rosella in the position that he needed to be.
I think about here, Rosella's thinking inside of the elbow, inside of the elbow, inside of the elbow. The moment he got those couple of car lengths back, they've already both seen the white flag at this point, gets a good run through the dipper, knows that the Porsche's not particularly strong down Conrod Straight, and just beelines it for the inside there. Ferguson thought he's one car length too far back, didn't cover that off like you otherwise might, but on the final lap, you gotcha. So here's the GT4 winner coming to the start-finish line to join their teammates in the GT3 win. Oh, there is a traction control disable in the Aston Martin because they've found it.
Yeah, they certainly have. That's going to be one heck of a team photo for Eclipse Sim Sports. Love it. So we got news of 3 GT3s to be disqualified due to drivers exceeding the maximum number of laps. Unfortunately, we're going to have to say goodbye to Vermilion number 28, Summit number 55, and Pulsachuka number 64. So, unfortunate for those teams, but the rules be the rules, and they have fallen afoul of them. So, these are the unofficial results of the Oceanic Sim Racing Bathurst 12-hour. In GT3, Dylan Burst by 10 seconds over Luke Rosella and Daniel Ferguson. That's your GT3 top 3. John Merritt and Anjay Youssef rounding out the top 5 for Pulsachuka Toyota and Altus Australia GT3, but of course, 4th place 64 will be disqualified for the driver laps issue that we mentioned. Zach Rattray White, again, another disqualification there. But 7th on the road, Dylan McAuliffe. 8th on the road, Byron Pierce. Thomas Hinz brings the Team Jinx Shifters number 52 into the top 10, and Team VRT get a top 10 as well, with Lewis Greathead behind the wheel.
In 11th, we find Orbit DBM and Cam Dance. Reese Gasoul getting back to 12th place in that 261. Some driver change, driver time difficulties for Evolution Racing Team in that final hour of the race. Better than the DQs that have come the way of, and will come the way of, a couple of other teams. This again is as they crossed the line. HTS Green in the 13th there. Summit Sim Sports Everest crossed the line in 14th. We do believe them to be one of the teams under investigation for a DQ. Pie Floaters there in 15th. Vermilion Motorsports also under similar investigation. Was it the 65 or one of the others? Might have been the 65. Then we've got crossing the line in 17th in GT3, Code 9 Esports. DBM Beyond Blue in 18th there. Evolution Racing Team 260 in 19th. Rogue Sim Sports Blue in 20th.
Yep, and Matthew Bowler bringing Evolution Racing Team 262 home. Gavin Barber brings the Middle Finger Racing number 3 home in 22nd place. Last car on the lead lap overall. Carl Raper brought the Whipperman Racing Porsche back into 1 lap down after being as low as 4 laps down at one point. FPS Evolved driving in 24th, and then we get into the retirement list for the GT3 class. Unfortunately, Guy Leach and Hayden Sell both taken out in the very unfortunate coming together at the top of the mountain when Sell was stopped abreast of the racetrack. Blake Neck and the team in the Venture IPM Sport 222 taken out quite some time ago. Same for 95 Simsport 95, Drop Bear and Kosi, and WKMP Simsports 764. Then XCM 100. Hardware issues for Jason Bentz just started an absolute cavalcade of misery for that team. Vermilion 228. They just missed out on getting into the shootout yesterday, and unfortunately missing out on finishing the 12-hour. Brock Kelly and Paul Warwick in the Dennett Racing and Fishing Motorsports 888 round out our GT3 field, David.
Over in GT4, you can take nothing away from the double effort of Eclipse Sim Sports. You take the GT4 victory in a very, very messy final 15 minutes. Slipstream Autosport come through to pick up positions and finish second. HTS Yellow get their Mercedes to third. The BMW of Pulse Tuning Echuca Toyota Beige comes through in fourth. Side by side as they cross the line in the end there. Veteran Gaming Australia Green held on for fifth ahead of what we assume to be a damaged Trans-Tasman Racing McLaren. SLM Motorsports Pink then scored 2 laps down after they went for a trip through the spectator areas in a pretty big late race incident. Locked On Racing 3 laps down, Full Send Motorsports 773 laps down, and then Race on Oz Esports number 16 was 6 laps down. And that smaller class completed by Lame Sheep Racing 11th, LP Racing 12th there, getting into retirements with Ned Whiskey White, Mauler Racing, Altus Australia's GT4, the other Race on Oz Esports number 15, and Veteran Gaming Australia Gold. Take a look at how many laps some of these safety cars did. Safety car 1 completing more laps than 1-9 Purple unfortunately were able to do, so put them 18th in the 18 car GT4 class.
Well, we will drag in the winners into our commentary box. Of course, we have to congratulate Eclipse Sim Sports once again for the win in both classes here today. Magnificently driven race from the lot of them. We should have Dylan Burst, Cody Deeth, and Damon Woods joining us very shortly for a chat. We do have Dylan in here to start off with. Big congratulations, mate. That was one heck of a race from you guys after starting from 15th thanks to the shootout infringement yesterday.
Yeah, no, cheers that, bro. I mean, yeah, we ended up having quite a nice controlled race to come through from P15, get to the lead after the first stint or so, and just, yeah, kind of make sure we do our driving times right, pull a gap when we can in between safety cars, and yeah, just make sure we pull no mistakes, and glad we did in the end, so that's nice. But yeah, appreciate it. Cheers.
Yeah, you guys are always the quickest car out there. I'll bring Cody in for this one because I think as the track temperature increased over the middle phase of the race, you would have been feeling that, Cody, as your stints wore on. Did you set the car up more for the hot or the cold conditions?
Well, I think yeah, Damon really put his docks, the clicks in for the hot temps. Really, it was really good. Like the cold temps, it was interesting, like it was quick, but for the hot temps, the car really shined through there.
Yeah, definitely looked like it. Well, that's a big win for all of you at Eclipse Sim Sports. What are your thoughts on the driving standards? Because there's been a lot of debate around, you know, the drivers, around broadcast chats, etc., about how many incidents, how many safety cars there were. What do you guys think can be done about that?
I mean, personally, to be completely honest, if we bring a rule similar to like 107%, especially for the back half of the GT4s, that would make it a lot better. Sort of eliminate probably 10 of the 16 safety cars, but that's my opinion. I think that should be done, although, yeah, I mean, otherwise the race was great. Most of the driving was really good, and yeah, it's pretty sweet, to be honest.
For the most part, it was everyone knew sort of what their role was when it came to lap traffic and stuff like that. It was all pretty good.
Especially up the more pointy end of the grid. Like for the first half of the grid on both occasions, it was really good standards. But yeah, it was good.
Certainly was. Well, big congratulations to you two, and also to Damon Woods as well, who joined you in the number 56 Audi. Is there anyone that you'd like to thank before we let you guys go?
Yeah, well, I'd like to thank Damo for being a legend. He can't make it because he's at the Motorsports Australia Gala tonight, being an absolute
too good for us. Too good for us.
Yeah, so.
But
big shout out to him. Big shout out to his coaching service as well, 5-6 Sim Sports. I mean, if you want to get up here one day, get onto him because he's one of the best at it. Thanks to all the other boys for being around, putting in the effort.
Big thanks to Jackson Barry. Kept us going throughout the day. Good.
But nah, thanks to everyone, all the organisers, stuff like that. Good race. You guys for
Yeah.
broadcasting.
Absolutely good.
Yeah.
Absolute good broadcast. Good.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Certainly one of the highlights of the year, and we are not even 2 months in. That's Cody Deeth and Dylan Burst from...
Especially the GT4. That was good. The GT4 as well, just to put it out there. 1-2 for
Absolutely.
the podium. Double win, that's awesome.
Good to watch.
Could not be happier, just to put that in. But yeah. Nice.
Indeed. We're going to be having a chat to them very quickly as well. David, I'll leave it to you to have a chat to the GT4 race winning squad. Kobe Williams, Caleb Hides, and hopefully Eddie Beswick as well. They're all in. The floor is yours.
Well, congratulations to you guys, and clearly a big day for the team. The honour of bringing it home was yours, Kobe.
Yeah, it was a tough race towards the end there. Jake had me on my toes that last 45 minutes from that last safety car, so I was just trying to do the best laps after laps, and then it was just, down to the wire, and then unfortunately Jake got hit by a GT3 car, so then it was ours for the last 5 minutes.
You're in the Aston Martin, you're being caught by one of those McLarens. Where did you feel was your car's strength relative to theirs?
Our car was really strong. From down Skyline through the S's, it was just really strong. Yeah, just there all day. I found the McLaren was quite good through the 90-degree bends, but then ours was just a little bit better across the top.
Eddie, your contribution to the team, and obviously we've seen a couple of teams sort of struggle with how they put together their driver lineups with the minimum and the maximum. About it really does take all three drivers to do their part for this victory.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that helped us out was we were all very similarly paced, so we weren't really like pushing for a single driver to be in the car. Obviously, I qualified, didn't do a very good job. The setup wasn't quite there, but we knew we had a really good race setup that was quite well balanced across all the different temperatures that we experienced in this race. The track temp increased up to 30 degrees through the race, so we had a really strong car. We had a really strong driver lineup, so we could run the mats quite early and calculate the amount of laps. And you know, when you're doing the maths quite early, you can really calculate the variance to make sure you don't go over or under those limits. So yeah, the biggest helping hand was just we're all quite similarly paced. Probably could have put together a competitive GT3 car, but we wanted to get the win in both classes.
Caleb, 102 laps completed. No chance to really settle into a groove with the number of safety cars and interruptions we saw. You guys often would sort of carry on one more lap after the safety car. Some real thinking about where the outright leader is, how it will all shake out with the wave rounds, etc.
Yeah, it was a bit all over the place, obviously being in the GT4s and, you know, the 3s were much quicker, but yeah, we're all clean in the end, so worked out good.
Certainly did. Congratulations to all three of you, not only for your GT4 win, but then also that team effort to whitewash it across both categories. We did hear from your teammates in that other car who gets it done for them, but you win both categories, you get both chances. Who gets it done for you guys?
Oh, I think.
Eddie,
No, I think we could have done it without Damon and his 5-6 sim coaching. You know, he's so good on this platform. 10,000 iRacing. He was keeping us sharp with this few small things that we needed help with, and you know, it's hard to find a driver coach that can really pull the things out when you're already quite on the pace, and he's able to do that. So he kept us sharp. Couldn't have done it without him, and obviously my teammates Kobe and Caleb.
Yeah, we couldn't do it without Jackson Barry either. He was our spotter all day today, so he helped
100%.
us get through the traffic and watch out for the GT3 cars.
Got to have your eyes on a
thank my work
swivel
as well
always.
for making sure, well, I called in sick for work to be here, so thanks to work as well for getting that all sorted. Worth
Very,
it.
very important. Congratulations, guys. I'm sure you got maybe just a tiny bit of celebrating to do. Enjoy it. Congratulations. OSR Bathurst 12-hour GT4 champions for 2024.
Yes.
Cheers, guys.
Brilliant stuff from Eclipse Sim Sports today. And that's going to bring proceedings to an end here, David. Unfortunately, we don't have time to talk to everyone on all the class podiums, but hey, you know, there were so many great stories to come out of that race. Plenty of controversy as well, but that's to be expected in a big sim racing event like this. all I'm thinking about is bring on next year, because I want more.
Do the maths on 3 cars from each class, 2 classes, 3 drivers in each car. That's 18 people. That'd be a lot, but certainly we saw some really amazing performances there out of both categories. Some GT3 competitors all through were just spellbinding, and then that GT4 battle that just got away from us. We really, really loved it.
Yeah, we absolutely did. Quick chat here with Mike Korolev of Oceanic Sim Racing. I think the event went off pretty well, Mike. Things certainly got a bit hectic out there with the number of safety cars, though.
Oh, wow, didn't they what? Thanks for having me on, boys. Great broadcast, and thank you very much for all the work that you've put in. Yeah, it did get hectic with safety cars, and probably this year we had a bigger spread of cars. Remember, in previous years we haven't had as many GT4 cars, and some years none. So there's a little bit of changing, and there was a wider spread of, let's say, experience in drivers. So it did lead to a few more safety cars than we would have liked to have seen. But wow, great racing! How good is that team? The Eclipse Sim Sports guys. How fast are they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Wow. Ridiculous pace. Absolutely loved seeing them strut their stuff around the mountain here. So, I mean, you guys at OSR have obviously stepped away from race organising and all that for V8 Scops, so it's not a 100% full-time job for you guys doing race officiating and all that now, but you're sticking with stuff like the Bathurst 12-hour. Do you have anything else that you're planning for this year?
Well, I can tell you this now, that I was definitely planning to do a Indy 500 until I found out that somebody else was doing it already. So I'm spewing because I really wanted to do that, because we haven't really, I don't think we've ever had a good one in Australia that we've put together, but I'm sure the boys that are doing it will. But we looked at that. That might be on the future for the year after. But yeah, we're seriously looking at the 12-hour, and we're wondering if we can take on 12 hours of, the Bathurst 6-hour. And we're wondering if we should do a 12 hours of Le Mans, and looking for a suitable date that might work. We don't know, but it's being discussed.
All right. Well, let's put that in the mind chip in the back of the head and see what comes of that. Big thanks to you, Mike, and all the team at OSR for putting all of this on. I'm sure you guys are going to go for a well-earned rest after this.
Yeah, we absolutely are, because we really didn't have much of a break between the end of Scops and to get into this and get it done. It's been a lot of work. It's been really good, and you know, when thinking about what 80 odd cars entered, that's huge. So you're looking at close on 240 cats you're trying to herd all into one place at the one time. But yeah, it's been great. We really love doing this sort of thing, and this is where we want to concentrate with OSR in the future, so that our boys can have a bit of a break, but still come out with really quality events for the racing community. We love doing it through SimSpeed, because you guys provide the commentary that we need to make our races sound great and look great on TV, and that's what sponsors want to see, and that's what we can take. So thank you very much to you guys. Thanks to my crew, Simon, Nick, Dan Stevens, Peter Baxter, and some of the guys in the background that from KRF that have done a wonderful job getting us up and running. So I'd like to thank those blokes too. So thank you very much, Jones.
And thank you very much, Mike Korolev, for joining us in the broadcast booth here right at the end of SimSpeed's broadcast of the Oceanic Sim Racing Bathurst 12-hour for 2024. Thank you once again to everyone for tuning in over the course of yesterday, this morning, and this evening. We really hope that you enjoyed the show, and I guess we'll see you again next year, or maybe later in the year, depending on how things go in the background at OSR. I'm Reese Gardner. David Haynes alongside me in the comms box. We want to thank Scott Rankin and Simon Mazzomo for joining us on the broadcast yesterday and this morning too. And biggest thanks of all to Jay Kennedy for being up and about for this whole period and bringing you these live pictures for all of our something approaching 10 hours of broadcasting over this weekend. From all of us here at SimSpeed TV, much love and goodbye for now.